Dragon Ball, starting by saving the Saiyans. Greetings, fellow multiversal adventurers. It's an honor to have you back in this saga that has us all hooked. Official channel statement: this story is 100% epic fiction. So please don't attempt real magic, the results aren't guaranteed and insurance won't cover it. The rights to this masterpiece belong entirely to its brilliant original author. We are just a barge sharing it with you. Do you want to keep being part of this amazing community? Join our ninja army of subscribers on YouTube and give this content a like. And for true fans, our Patreon has exclusive ninjutsu waiting for you. Chapter 26 to Terrence. Could you explain in more detail what you mean? The king asked, puzzled. I really don't understand why you've made such a fuss. Raul scratched his head. Persuading others wasn't Raul's forte, he preferred to convince people with physics. Raul thought for a moment before explaining. Let me put it this way, your Earth's god has sensed the decline of Earth's martial arts, so I made an agreement with your god to help him improve Earth's martial arts. I don't quite understand this god you're talking about, the king said, frowning. The group behind the king were also somewhat bewildered, stunned. How did another legendary god from Earth appear? Gods, well, that's too complicated to explain. Raul, sitting opposite the king, shook his head. Let's skip that and get straight to the point. Your Earth is too weak. Whether it's martial arts or technology, technology needs time to mature, but martial arts can leapfrog ahead. I came here to make you value martial arts, to value masters, not just treat martial arts as a competition. Raul said solemnly. In his previous life, he was disappointed by Earth's ignorance. Others were already waging Star Wars in space, while on Earth, people who could fly were few and far between. A combat power exceeding 100 made someone a legendary figure like Master Roshi. It was far too backward. The development of our martial arts is none of your business, some nobody. The martial arts master, now awake, stood behind the king, listening angrily to Raul's words. With a casual punch, Luo created a crater a meter in diameter in the ground. He looked at the martial arts expert again and said calmly, "What did you say?" If he weren't worried about collapsing the building and crushing the people in front of him, Luo's warning would have been even more impactful. Nothing. The martial arts expert awkwardly scratched his head. You're right, we still have too few martial arts experts here. The king frowned and said, but I know nothing about martial arts. I really don't understand what you're saying. Find an advisor. You're the king, finding someone familiar with martial arts shouldn't be difficult. Luo asked doubtfully. Or perhaps you still don't realize the power of a master? The minister beside him exclaimed in surprise, so you're a top-tier martial arts master, which is why you're immune to firearms? The king was also shocked. He looked at Luo. He had never imagined a martial arts master could achieve such a feat. It was like taking the enemy general's hut from among 10,000 soldiers. One person entered an empty field and easily captured him. Martial arts? The king lowered his head, deep in thought. For the first time, he truly valued martial arts, not just treating it as a competition. He then looked up at Raul and asked, then you could have just spoken properly. Why did you barge into my palace like that? Raul smiled, pointing to himself. Do you know me? The king shook his head in confusion. No. That's right, that's exactly it. Raul said with a smile, even if you knew me, it would be difficult for me to see you. I don't have time to wait for you for 10 days or half a month. Besides, if I obediently waited for time to pass, would you take what I said seriously? This. The king nodded. Indeed, they wouldn't listen to the words of a boy they'd never even met. They might not even see him. Even if they did, they'd probably just give him a few perfunctory words and send him away. Raul understood. This was what was meant by a weak nation has no diplomacy from his previous life. Small countries with weak economies and military strength were ignored, their words were easily deceived and suppressed by larger nations. On the contrary, in powerful nations like the United States, even a casual joke is interpreted with suspicion. Therefore, Luo didn't timidly wait for an announcement and then an audience, merely exchanging a few words before leaving, that wouldn't earn him any respect. Having promised the gods, Luo wouldn't break his word, he would do his best. So what should we do? A cold sweat trickled down the king's face as he looked at the young man before him. Although he looked young, he was no longer someone the king could ignore. It's simple. From now on, vigorously develop martial arts, advancing them alongside technology. No amount of funding invested in martial arts is excessive, Luo solemnly reminded him. The king nodded and said, I understand. I will find people knowledgeable in martial arts and gather a group of advisors to devise a plan. Luo nodded and said, martial arts is the most powerful force in the universe. The strength of some masters is beyond the imagination of you earthlings. The weak can be dealt with a small pistol, but the strong can destroy the world and blast planets apart. Actually, I've always had a question. You kept saying you earthlings, but the tone made it sound like you weren't from Earth, the king said, noticing the inconsistency in Ral's words. Ral smiled mysteriously and said, well, that's a secret. We'll talk about it when a true master appears on Earth. Ral spoke in riddles, but in the king's eyes, Ral had already implicitly acknowledged that he wasn't from Earth, otherwise, there would be no need for such a response. Alright, then I'll be going. Ral stood up. Ral's simple action caused a large group of soldiers behind the king to take their duties seriously, clutching their weapons tightly, as if only in this way could they feel safe. Ral looked at them and smiled, saying, I told you, a true master isn't afraid of guns, and I'm definitely the strongest master here. How can a gun compare to well-trained martial arts? Ral stood up and slowly walked to the door. Just as he opened the door to leave, he stopped, making everyone present hold their breath. Ral turned to look at them, noticing their tense expressions, and added, by the way, just a reminder, I don't have much time left, so I won't be waiting long. I'll give you half a month, that is, 15 days. I need to see the results of your discussions on television, otherwise I'll come back again. However, I won't be so gentle next time. Since you can't be a qualified king, I'll replace you with a different one. Did you understand? Ral looked at them threateningly, not wanting to let them down. He was afraid they would drag their feet and pass the buck like those rumored government departments. Ral wouldn't just sit there waiting for their orders. Understood. Since it's helpful to my people, I will carry it out diligently, the king said in a deep voice, his face extremely solemn. That's good. Ral nodded, then, after thinking for a moment, decided to give them a high-profile warning before leaving. With a thunderous roar, Ral floated up to everyone's astonishment, then looked up at the ceiling. With a huge boom, a large hole appeared in the ceiling, and Ral had vanished. Quickly, protect the king. Watch out for a landslide. The king ignored his minister's shouts and stared intently at the large hole that the young man had created, lost in thought. Chapter 27 The House of Spiritual Time. Earth, Kami's Lookout. Ral landed on Kami's Lookout from the sky, his gaze sweeping across the area before landing on Asyana, who was still diligently training. He didn't disturb her, instead focusing on his own training. Wearing a gravity suit, and with a thin air, though the gravity was much lower than on Planet Vegeta, training under these conditions was still very effective. In the blink of an eye, Asyana had been meditating, focusing on controlling her ki, for 18 days, and finally succeeded. Asyana closed her eyes and took a deep breath. In her perception, she could clearly sense the amount and different states of ki from everyone nearby. This feeling was like having an extra pair of eyes, incredibly magical. Ral, I finally succeeded. Asyana smiled broadly, very happy. Very good, it seems you also have talent. Ral nodded, praising her. By the way, this is the combat power detector modified by Dr. Brief. Let me see your current combat power value. Don't bother looking. I don't think I'll improve much. After all, I'm just a low-level Saiyan. Asyana was a little shy. She felt that her improvement was definitely not as much as other Saiyans. Don't give up. This is your first training session. It will definitely bring you unexpected surprises. Ral said with a smile, putting on the new detector and starting to detect. The combat power detector started beeping, and the value kept rising. Soon, the final value was determined, 2,300. Combat power 2,920, not bad. Your combat power has improved a lot, almost doubled. Ral said with a smile, giving Asyana a thumbs up. Asyana opened her red lips in surprise, looking at Ral in disbelief. I don't believe it. Give me a detector. I want to see for myself. With excitement and trepidation, Asyana took the new detector handed to her by Ral. Because apart from some changes in appearance, the functions were almost the same as before, so Asyana quickly got the hang of a 2,920. Asyana stared in delight at the number on the combat power detector's display, her mouth agape in astonishment. She had never imagined that she would improve so dramatically in just 1 month. Roll, it's true. I really did improve my combat power so much? Am I dreaming? Asyana excitedly rushed forward, hugged Roll, and spun him around in the air above the Temple of Gods. Roll felt a soft touch against his chest, his face flushing slightly. Asyana's figure was curvaceous, and hugging Roll and spinning him close to her body was something he could hardly resist. After a while, Asyana put Roll down, her face still rosy, showing how happy and satisfied she was with her increased combat power. Asyana looked at Roll's strange movements with a puzzled expression and asked, "Roll, is your stomach upset? Why are you bent over like that?" "It's alright, it'll be fine in a bit." Roll silently recited the Ice Heart mantra to suppress the erotic thoughts in his mind. After a while, Roll returned to normal and stood before Popo with Asyana. "Excellent. You two are the most talented people I've seen in hundreds of years. You've completed the first and second stages of training so quickly," Popo praised with a smile. This was indeed true. In terms of combat talent, few in the universe could compare to the Saiyans, born for battle. Next is the third and final stage of training. "Follow me." Popo finished speaking, put his hands behind his back, and walked into the Kami's lookout. Roll and Asyana exchanged a smile, their eyes revealing the curiosity and anticipation for the final stage of training Popo had mentioned. The first and second stages had already increased their combat power so much, how much would the third stage increase it? "Follow me, stay close," Popo said without turning his head. As Roll and Asyana followed, the interior of the Kami's lookout was surprisingly spacious compared to the outside, a veritable hidden world. After walking for 3 to 5 minutes, they arrived at a door. This door, a mottled mix of white and gold, didn't seem particularly special. "This is the hyperbolic time chamber. Time inside is different from the outside world. 1 year inside is equivalent to 1 day outside. The gravity is about 3 or 4 times that of Earth, and the environment is extremely harsh, with extreme temperature differences between day and night," Popo briefly explained the house. "The hyperbolic time chamber," Raoul exclaimed in surprise, not expecting it to be such a famous room from the original Dragon Ball series. As everyone knows, the hyperbolic time chamber is located inside Kami's lookout. The air is thin, extremely hot, with temperatures ranging from 50 degrees Celsius to -40 degrees Celsius. Gravity is several times stronger than on Earth, and the space is as vast as Earth's. If one's willpower is weak, hallucinations are likely to occur. It's an excellent place for training, and crucially, time inside is different from the outside world. 1 day inside is equivalent to 1 year outside. Popo has prepared plenty of food and water inside. Each person can only enter the hyperbolic time chamber for 2 days in their lifetime, which is equivalent to 2 years inside. If you want to advance further and become stronger, you can go inside and start training. Popo introduced a hyperbolic time chamber, explaining that he had prepared ample water and food inside over the past few days. Hyperbolic time chamber? Asyana was completely shocked. Raul knew what the hyperbolic time chamber was, which was why he seemed calm, but Asyana had no idea. However, after Popo's explanation, she realized the special nature of this hyperbolic time chamber. 1 day was equivalent to 1 year, the harsh environment, the unique gravity, it seemed like a completely different planet, a completely different space. "Popo, are you saying that this is a completely different space from the outside world?" Asyana asked in surprise. "Yes, the hyperbolic time chamber was discovered a long time ago and modified by Popo and generations of Kami over a great deal of time," Popo nodded, calmly explaining. "Once you enter and close the door, you are completely isolated from the world, and you can no longer sense the outside world. The hyperbolic time chamber can be considered another world, another special dimensional space. So, have you decided? Are you going in or not?" Raul nodded. He had been training on Planet Vegeta for a long time and had reached his current peak. Only in different environments could he grow faster. The stronger he was, the greater his chances of the plan succeeding. Asyana also nodded. She had been abandoned by her parents and lived alone. She had thought she was just a low-level Saiyan, and that her battle power would never exceed 2000 in her entire life. But in such a short time, she had surpassed her previous training results, giving her hope. Asyana secretly glanced at the radiant Raul. She wanted to get closer to him. She hadn't dared to imagine it before, but his recent growth had given her a glimmer of hope. Raul and Asyana smiled slightly and stepped into the mental time chamber together. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, It means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Combat Power Source. One day later, Babbo stood in front of the spiritual time chamber, waiting for the two to appear. Time ticked by, and soon the clock on the door reached a full 24 hours. The doorknob creaked open, and two sharp-eyed young men and women stepped out. They're different now. Their aura is more restrained, but their spirit is overflowing. Babbo sensed the difference between them and when they first entered. The two had stayed for a full 24 hours, meaning they had spent a whole year in the spiritual time chamber. Babbo rarely saw anyone stay inside for a full year. "Hey, Babbo, it's so nice to see you," Luo exclaimed. In that aspect, apart from the small house, everything else was a blank, a true blank. Luo thought about the spiritual time chamber again, feeling a little apprehensive. It was a place that was both scorching hot and freezing cold, with huge temperature differences between day and night. At its coldest, water would freeze instantly. If Luo and his companion didn't constantly use their own aura to protect themselves, they might freeze to death. During the hottest times, the heat is unbearable. Even the slightest movement outside can ignite a blazing inferno, requiring constant vigilance to protect oneself with ki. The only truly safe place is a seemingly ordinary house, where the temperature and environment are normal, but it's too small. Training requires going outside. Outside lies an endless white plain, a harsh environment that, while not suffocating, is utterly unsuitable for even the resilient Saiyans. On this vast white plain, Raul and Asyana train, following Popo's teachings to cultivate their ki and inner strength. Because of the presence, Raul and Asyana often spar. Due to the harsh environment and the intensity of their fights, Raul, for Asyana's sake, lowers his power level to fight at her own pace. Their clothes were often torn during their fights, with Raul frequently barely clothed and Asyana often accidentally exposed. At first, they were shy, but as time went on, they continued fighting in their tattered clothes until Asyana was exhausted, and then Raul would continue his solo training. Popo had prepared plenty of food and water in the safe house, but not many clothes. Fortunately, Raul always carried the capsules of immortality, which helped. Otherwise, Raul and Asyana would have been embarrassed, almost exposing themselves during their fights. Meditation, training, sparring. For a year, Raul and Asyana repeated these training sessions. What seemed like ordinary training, in that unique and harsh environment, required them to put in 10 or even 100 times more effort than outside, just to concentrate and overcome all difficulties. Initially, it was a double test of body and mind. Even Raul, let alone Asyana, longed to go outside and train. It was truly mentally torturous. An ordinary person would likely go insane after a while. Yes, that room was terrifying. Although it's good for training, it's also incredibly desolate. Asyana echoed this sentiment. If it weren't for Raul's constant companionship, she probably wouldn't have been able to endure it. Raul also felt the unbearable pressure of that room. If he had to choose, he would rather undergo training with 100 times the gravity outside than spend a month alone inside. But judging from your expressions, you must have gained a lot. Popo asked curiously. Both of them were calmly suppressing their ki, making his senses somewhat inaccurate. Release it, let me see. I'm curious too. Popo continued. Apart from the gods, these two were the most powerful people Popo had seen in hundreds of years. He wondered how they had changed in a year, especially in a spiritual time chamber with such a high training effect. Let me go first. Asyana stepped forward with a smile. Asyana's long, soft hair flowed in the wind. She was at the peak of her beauty, more beautiful than any flower. Her delicate face seemed to glow with moisture, and her figure was exquisitely curvaceous. Even more remarkable was that, after 3 phases of training, Asyana had rediscovered herself, radiating a dazzling brilliance that captivated all who beheld her. Ha! Asyana shouted, and a powerful aura surged from her core, even stirring up a gale. A fierce wind arose, enveloping the entire temple of the gods. Those closest to Asyana felt a suffocating pressure. That's enough. Enough. Enough, the god exclaimed, the powerful aura blasting even the god of the gods away. Who? Asyana let out a long breath, calming her breath once more. What a terrifying aura. I've never felt such an aura before. It even transformed into gusts of wind, almost snapping the plants in the temple of the gods. The god wiped the cold sweat from his brow and exclaimed. Raul, how's it going? My combat power has broken through 9,000, right? Asyana grinned at Raul and asked proudly. Yes, my combat power has reached 9,900. Raul, wearing a new detector, detected Asyana's combat power value. Great! Asyana cheered. She had never imagined her combat power could reach such a level. The mental time chamber, although extremely torturous, subjecting both body and mind to inhuman torture, had unprecedentedly good training effects. Raul, hurry up, release yourself. I want to see how high your combat power is now. Asyana asked curiously. All she knew was that Raul had broken through 30,000 half a year ago inside. She wondered what level Raul had reached after another 6 months. All right. Raul nodded, then his expression turned serious. With a boom, an overwhelming aura appeared on the Temple of Gods, making the entire temple tremble under its weight. Babo and the god beside him were even more overwhelmed by this aura, unable to breathe. What kind of aura was this? A single burst could probably destroy an entire continent instantly. If it were unleashed at full power, it might even destroy the earth. Creak, creak. The incredibly hard floor of the Temple of Gods creaked under the weight, as if it were about to shatter at any moment. Suppression, fear. The god looked at Raul in horror. He had never imagined that someone's aura could be so terrifying. Seeing the Temple of Gods teetering on the brink of collapse, he quickly stopped him, saying, Enough, that's enough. Breathe. Raul nodded, took a deep breath, and withdrew his aura. Asyana also learned about Raul's combat power through the combat power detector, 52,800. This was the effect of their 3 stages of training at the Temple of Gods. Asyana's power level has grown from 1,500 when she first arrived on Earth to 9,900. Meanwhile, Raul's power level has increased from 23,000 to 52,800, exceeding 50,000 in combat power. Chapter 29 Fairy Beans. Oh dear, I never expected you Saiyans to be so terrifying. Just 2 of you easily broke the highest record in Kami's temple. Kami, holding his cane, slowly walked over, staring at Raul and Asyana. These 2 were simply monsters. Did Saiyans have no limits? Kami, you're actually quite strong too, Raul said with a smile. No, while my fighting power is not bad, it's far inferior to yours. I'm afraid you could crush me with a single finger. Kami waved his hand and sighed. Back then, he was invincible on Earth, finding no rivals on this planet. Hearing of the existence of Kami, he went to Kami's temple and, after a series of efforts, became Kami himself. Thinking back, it was quite a bittersweet memory. He was no longer young. Kami thought Raul was just trying to comfort him. In reality, Kami and Piccolo merging into one could create the most talented Namekian. If the strongest Saiyan could be called a Super Saiyan, then they were Super Namekians. In the Android saga, the fighting power of the Super Namekians was undeniable, far surpassing that of ordinary Super Saiyans. However, Piccolo is still Piccolo Daimyo, and neither old Piccolo nor Kami would want to fuse with him. You've completed 3 phases of training. Popo has nothing more to teach you. The rest is up to you, Popo said calmly. He was satisfied with Raul and Asyana's progress. He couldn't teach them anything more now. Thank you, Kami, and Popo, for your guidance. We'll be going then, Raul said with a smile, then he and Asyana turned and ascended, flying out of Kami's lookout and heading downwards. Ah, what terrifying 2 people, what Saiyans with such fighting potential, Kami sighed, watching their departing figures. He slowly entered the temple, already having some new ideas about Earth's martial arts. However, realizing them might take a long time. Roll, aren't we leaving? Why don't we just fly away? Why are we landing so close to Korin Tower? Asyana and Roll flew side by side, circling Korin Tower, descending through thick clouds, and soon arrived at the Cat Sage's residence. Let's say hello to Korin first, Roll said with a mysterious smile. Say hello? Asyana was surprised. When did Roll become so familiar with that strange big cat that he even came over to say hello before leaving? Roll smiled. This was one of the most important things to do upon arriving on Earth, something incredibly magical, indispensable for adventures in the Dragon Ball world, a healing elixir, Senzu beans. Roll and Asyana had been training at Kami's lookout, doing nothing but training. Now that they had completed all 3 stages of training, they could finally relax. In Korin Tower, The cat sage stood idly at the edge of the oval-shaped house, observing the various things happening on Earth. Because he was a sage, he spent most of his time in this place and didn't descend to the mortal realm. The gods are the same, unless there's something extremely important, they won't leave the temple. After all, this is the post they've held for hundreds of years, and they each have their own profession. Becoming a high god isn't entirely carefree, even the most powerful destroyer in the universe has the duty to destroy. Angels are different. Angels can't be considered life forms of this universe, they are special beings that transcend gender and the universe. The cat sage leisurely observed the surrounding land and the distant horizon when suddenly he sensed two powerful energies swooping down towards him. Cold sweat broke out on the cat sage's back, such powerful energy was terrifying. However, he quickly calmed down. Because these two were people he knew. The cat sage narrowed his eyes slightly, looking at the two unexpected guests, and casually asked, Asyana, weren't you training at the temple? What brings you here? We've finished our training. I'm much stronger than before, Asyana said with a smile, her whole demeanor exuding confidence. Her current strength is probably in the top 3 among Saiyans, except for those freaks like Ra. Yes, we've finished 3 phases of training. Ra nodded, echoing Asyana's statement. Mr. Popo's teachings were very helpful. Our fighting power has increased significantly. Incredible. Although Master Cat had already been amazed by the two of them several times, he was still quite surprised to hear that they had finished training in such a short time. You two have amazing martial arts talent. Alright, let's get down to business. I wonder what brings you two here to visit me? Don't tell me it was just a sudden whim to come see me. Raul rubbed his hands together. He used to barter, and this time asking for things directly felt a little strange. He said, well, I heard that the sage has a special plant called senzu beans. I wonder if the cat sage could give me some? Oh, senzu beans, the cat sage nodded. Senzu beans are indeed wonderful. One bean can keep you full for 10 days, and it also helps you recover quickly from injuries. I don't need senzu beans here. You can have them if you want. Wait, let me look. Thank you so much. Raul rubbed his hands excitedly, appearing very excited. Asyana looked at Raul with suspicion. She hadn't seen Raul so excited in a long time. Were these senzu beans really that magical? In Raul's mind, a senzu bean, such a high-end and sophisticated item, should at least be kept locked away in a cabinet. However, to Raul's surprise, Master Cat went straight to the pile of junk and, from a corner, pulled out a small, dusty jar. The jar was simply covered with a piece of sheepskin, without even a proper lid. Raul's eyes widened. Such a magical item, and now it was being treated like trash, tossed into the junk pile and kept in a broken jar. Raul sighed inwardly, thinking that even in the future, the Z fighters, at their richest, would only have a handful of senzu beans, no more than a handful in their hands. How pitiful. Here, all the senzu beans I've collected over the years are here. No one's climbed Korin Tower in ages. I think it was about 200 or 300 years ago, a kid named Takanori finally made it up, and trained for 3 years before coming down. Besides him, no one else has done it. So, I've been saving these senzu beans, and I can't spend them all. It's just that the yield of senzu beans is so low, it's taken me 200 or 300 years to accumulate this small jar. That's enough, that's enough. I'm very satisfied. Thank you. With a mix of excitement and trepidation, Raul carefully accepted the small jar containing the senzu beans from Master Nekomamashi. Chapter 30 All About Senzu Beans. 9998, 9999, 10,000, 10,001, 10,002, 10,003, 10,004, 10,005. 10,005 senzu beans. I'm rich. I'm rich this time. From now on, I'll drink porridge and throw away every bowl, and eat instant noodles with ham and eggs. Raul sat on the ground counting senzu beans, grinning foolishly as he counted. Asyana and the Nekomamashi shook their heads in disapproval. It was too embarrassing to watch, it completely ruined his persona. After Raul finished counting, he carefully put the senzu beans into the jar, carefully observing his surroundings to make sure not a single one was missing before finally letting out a sigh of relief. Raul hugged the jar tightly, reluctant to let go. Looking at it, he thought to himself, this jar is too fragile. If it breaks, I'm doomed. I'll get a sturdier one later, a titanium one. With that thought, Raul placed the jar on the ground, took out a few super capsules, and said with a smile, "Thank you again for the senzu beans, Master Cat. These are some small gifts for you, please accept them." Raul took out a box containing super capsules and took out more than a dozen kinds. He pressed a button on a capsule, threw it forward, and a hazy smoke flashed by, revealing more than a dozen special devices before them. Master Cat tapped the pile of things in front of him with his cane and asked curiously, "Raul, these must be some technological items from the lower realm." Raul exclaimed in surprise, "Master Cat knows about them?" "Yes, I've been watching the development of the lower realm for hundreds of years, so of course I know about these things, I just haven't come into contact with them," Master Cat said with a smile. "Okay, let me give you a brief introduction to the uses of these things," Raul said with a smile, introducing the names and uses of these products like a salesman. "This is a human invention, a television. You can use it to observe the world without leaving home, and watch many interesting and fun movies. Cat Master, come and see, here's the power switch, this is the remote control, and you can also manually adjust the channels here. This is a refrigerator. A refrigerator can maintain the freshness of food at extremely low temperatures, a very convenient item. This is a cell phone. It's a communication device that allows you to contact people thousands of miles away, but since humans haven't invented smartphones yet, this phone only has some basic functions. These are some toys, remote-controlled cars, remote-controlled airplanes, and special combination toys, etc. This whole bunch is food, including fish, chicken, duck, goose, and many kinds of vegetables and fruits, etc. Oh, right, considering that electricity is inconvenient in Kalinta, I also brought several generators. Instructions for how to use them are all here. And, this. That's enough, too much?" Cat Master looked at the ever-increasing amount of space and smiled wryly. "Raul, I know your good intentions, but look, I only have so much space here, how can I store so many items?" Raul smiled slightly, walked to the largest machine, pressed a special button, and with a puff of smoke, the machine transformed into a small, agile capsule. "See, these capsules are so convenient now, they don't take up much space." That's good." Master Roshi stroked his whiskers happily, nodded, and looked at the items with shining eyes. He was also very interested in items from the lower realm, but due to his duties, he generally didn't go down there. Even when he did, he would quickly complete his mission and return, never having time to acquire those strange and wonderful technological items. Now he could finally study them properly. He had been here for hundreds of years, and it was quite boring. His greatest pleasure was observing the lower realm and waiting for martial artists to climb Korin Tower and receive his instruction. However, it had been a very, very long time since anyone had climbed up. The last person to do so was the one from 300 years ago, who is now known as Master Roshi, the god of martial arts. Trading a bunch of useless senzu beans for these things, not bad. The Cat Master looked at the items with a smile, at least he wouldn't be bored until he finished studying them. To be able to get a whole bunch of senzu beans so easily, this is great. Raul was secretly delighted. Having so many senzu beans was like having lives, they could save lives in a critical moment. Master Cat looked at Raul and said with a smile, "These senzu beans, I actually give 2 or 3 to everyone who climbs Korin Tower as a gift. Their main purpose is to help them alleviate hunger and fatigue. It's just that 300 years have passed, and the martial artists in the lower realms have been too disappointing, not a single one has climbed Korin Tower. Now, I'm giving them to you as a gift, and I'm already very satisfied with what I've received in return." Raul smiled and said, "I'm the one who's truly delighted to have so many senzu beans. Master Cat, I wonder how senzu beans are cultivated? Is it possible to grow more?" Raul understood the principle of sitting idle and eating one's own food will eventually lead to depletion. He couldn't rely solely on these senzu beans. While tens of thousands of senzu beans were a lot, if used continuously, they would eventually run out. Sustainable development was the right path. Master Cat, seeing Raul's expression, knew he was very attached to senzu beans and wanted more. Master Cat shook his head and said, "It's not that I don't want to grow more senzu beans, but there are only 3 vines that can grow them. These 3 vines took hundreds of years to cultivate. Cultivating these senzu bean vines is extremely complicated, and they're not easy to keep alive. You have to be extremely careful. Even I, who have lived on this Korin Tower for over 800 years, and who usually have nothing to do, cough cough, In short, it took me hundreds of years to cultivate those 3 senzu bean vines. Getting more is difficult. Ra listened, frowning slightly. Yes, if senzu beans were so easy to cultivate, everyone on Earth, even in the universe, would know about them long ago. After all, such miraculous beans, once their true effects are known, would drive people mad, willing to do anything to obtain them. Only the Z fighters and their few selfless heroes, dedicated to protecting Earth, would so easily entrust senzu beans to others. The value of senzu beans is immeasurable. Even if you offered an entire planet for a jar of senzu beans in Ra's hands, he wouldn't trade it. Such an incredible item, indeed, has an extremely low yield. According to the Nekomamashi, the senzu bean vine is incredibly difficult to cultivate. Ro dismissed his idea of transplanting more senzu bean vine. If he disturbed it and the vines died, unable to produce senzu beans, Ro would regret it terribly. I see. All right then, master. Try to plant as many senzu beans as possible, even just one more vine would be fine. Ro shook his head and sighed, deciding to wait and see if he could obtain more senzu beans later. Sure, I'll try. The Nekomamashi nodded. But don't have too high hopes. Even if I manage to make the senzu bean vine grow quickly, it will probably be decades from now. I estimate at least 20 years. Okay, I can wait. Then I'll leave in the trouble of the Nekomamashi. Asyana and I will be leaving now. Ro nodded, still hoping for more senzu beans to grow. Even if it took 20 years, he would wait. Goodbye, big cat. Asyana waved. The cat sage watched as Raul and Asyana flew out of his house and descended downwards, no longer paying attention. He turned to face the group of technological artifacts from the lower realm, eager to try them out. Chapter 31 Bra's Hope. Hey, hey. As Roar and Asyana were flying low, preparing to leave Kalon Tower, they suddenly heard a series of shouts. Roar, did you hear that? It sounds like someone down below is calling us. Asyana looked down at the ground in confusion. Yeah, that's strange, let's go check it out. Roar nodded and swooped down. Asyana followed behind, landing on the ground alongside Roar. This was Kalon Tower, the legendary place where immortals resided. Below it lived a group of people resembling Native Americans, who had guarded Kalon Tower for generations. They would drive away evil people who tried to approach Kalon Tower and defeat those who came to Kalon Tower for ulterior motives. The shouts Roar heard were coming from one of the guardians of Kalon Tower. Was it you who kept calling us? Roar looked at the tall, muscular young man in front of him, with a young, beautiful woman with wheat-colored skin beside him. They stood side by side, presumably a couple or lovers. Yes, I apologize for disturbing you. The young man looked at them with a peculiar longing in his eyes. Judging from your unique flying style, you must have climbed Korin Tower. That's right, we climbed Korin Tower and have successfully descended. Raul nodded, sizing up the young man. Hello, my name is Blara. I'm bothering you to confirm something. Are there really sages in front of Korin Tower? The young man named Blara's eyes shone brightly. He had been waiting for this person who could answer his question for nearly 20 years. Bora. Raul looked at him in surprise. He hadn't expected him to be Blara. Blara was the one who guarded the sacred Korin Tower in the original story. To drive away the villains who invaded Korin Tower, he fought the Red Ribbon Army single-handedly, but died at the hands of Tao Pai Pai, the world's #1 assassin. In the end, Goku climbed Korin Tower, trained, defeated Tao Pai Pai, and then gathered the Dragon Balls to revive him. Much later, during Goku's final battle against Majin Buu, he sought energy from Earthlings to create the Spirit Bomb, and Blaze, along with his people, contributed his strength. He likely had a son named Yupa, who was one of Goku's childhood playmates. Lo had a deep impression of Blaze. He was one of the few people Law saw who, despite not being part of the main cast, could withstand a hail of bullets from the Red Ribbon Army with his immense strength, demonstrating exceptional fighting talent. However, his training wasn't sufficient, and he died at the hands of Tao Pai Pai, only to be resurrected by the Dragon Balls. Brahma said in a deep voice, our people used to number more than this, but as time went on, more and more of them believed that what we were protecting was just a unique building, and there was no such thing as the legendary Kalon Sage. Over the years, some people have come to challenge Kalon Tower, but they have all failed. Me too. I challenged Kalon Tower a few years ago, but I failed as well. Therefore, no one can give them an answer. I'm watching my people leave, fewer and fewer, and maybe in another 10 years or so, I'll be the only one left. Brahma clenched his fists, his voice low and heavy. I don't believe it. I don't believe that what our people have been protecting all these years is just a vague legend. But I'm not strong enough, I can't prove it. Please tell me, I need an answer. Looking at Brahma's eyes, filled with longing, confusion, and sorrow, Raul nodded solemnly. Yes, there is. The Kalan sage does exist. That's wonderful. Brahma's eyes lit up again. He knew that what their people had been protecting wasn't some vague legend, nor just a special building's pillar. Who's that next to you? Luo asked curiously. Brahma smiled gently, his large, thick hand gripping hers tightly. She's my wife, we just got married this year. But she doesn't believe there are immortals on Kalan Tower either. Brahma's wife looked at Raul and Asyana suspiciously. She said, Brahma, I admit they can fly, which is amazing, but you can't just believe whatever they say. You're too trusting, too naive. I won't believe there are immortals until I've seen it with my own eyes. Brahma's face flushed, he muttered a few words, and finally retorted, they can fly, why would they need to lie to me? Just watch, they say there's an immortal named Kalan, so it must really exist. I haven't trained hard enough before, I'll definitely train hard and let you see the immortal Kalan. Impossible. You're really daydreaming, Brahma. Last time you said you climbed for ages and saw nothing, and almost fell to your death. Yes, that was last time, so I'll definitely train hard. Brahma, you. Watching the two argue, Raul thought back to when Goku first arrived at Kalan Tower and encountered Blaira and Blaira's son Yupa. Why hadn't he seen Blaira's wife? Was she dead, ran away, or what? The original story only briefly mentioned her, without any visual description, but now it seemed she might have left after Yupa's death, because she didn't believe in the existence of sages on Kalan Tower. And guarding a pillar with no end in sight generation after generation, that would truly drive anyone mad. Blaira's wife leaving wasn't incomprehensible. But if it really came down to Blaira, he probably wouldn't have been able to climb it even when Goku arrived. After all, Goku was much stronger than Blaira by then, and it still took him a long time to reach Kalan Tower. Raul watched Blaira confidently guaranteeing he could successfully climb Kalan Tower and see the sages, while his wife thought her husband was being unrealistic. Kalan Tower was not only towering into the clouds but also lacked any safety measures. In case of an accident, they could easily become victims at its base. Even if one has the ability to climb Kalan Tower, it's best to do so within a day. As time goes on, one's stamina will be greatly depleted, and the chances of reaching the top will decrease. So, let me give you a hand. Raul smiled slightly and extended his hand to Bra. Bra looked at Raul's outstretched hand in confusion, not understanding his meaning. Raul smiled and said, so, don't you want to see Sage Kalan? Hearing Raul's words, Bra's heart pounded as if it would jump out of his chest. He blurted out, of course I do. Of course I want to see the sage. This isn't just my dream, it's the dream of our entire race. Alright, take my hand, and I'll take you flying. Raul said with a smile. Bra nodded, excitedly stepped forward, and grasped Raul's hand. Raul slowly lifted Bra into the air, glancing at Asyana who remained unmoved, and said, Asyana, take Bra's wife with you, let's go up together. Okay, Asyana shrugged. She didn't quite understand Raul's reasoning, but she obediently went over and hugged Bra's wife. Raul nodded, pulling Bra along, and together with Asyana holding Bra's wife, they rushed up Kalan Tower again. Chapter 32 The Catmaster's Training. Raul, Asyana, what brings you two here again? Who are those two? The cat sage was fiddling with household appliances. Seeing them approach, he immediately put down what he was doing, grabbed his cane, and came over. He recognized the two people on the other end. They had just flown away, and now they were back. Moreover, they had brought two strangers with them. Bra and his wife were placed on the floor by Raul and the others. Bra looked at the talking cat in front of him and swallowed hard. Could he be the sage? Looking at their appearances and attire, the cat sage asked, they seem to be guardians who have always stayed at the foot of Kalan Tower. Why did you bring them here, Raul? There are rules in Kalan Tower. To see me and obtain my holy water, you have to climb Kalan Tower alone, step by step. Raul said with a smile, Sage, you see their clan has always protected Kalan Tower, can you make an exception? They can train here, and when they're capable of climbing Kalan Tower themselves, they can climb it again. Getting on the bus first and paying the fare later, that works too. The cat sage shook his head, helplessly saying, "Raoul, you really know how to cause me trouble." The cat sage now understood Raoul's nature and wasn't as reserved as before. Raoul's strength had increased, and the cat sage was no longer afraid. Are you the sage from Korin Tower?" Broad asked, her voice trembling. "That's right." The cat sage squinted at Bora, wanting to see what was so special about this man that made Raoul want to help. "Korin sage, our people have protected you for generations, and today we are finally able to see you." Bora knelt down with a thud, showing his respect for the cat sage. "You?" Bora's wife looked at the cat sage suspiciously. "Are you really a sage?" "How, it seems you don't believe me." The cat sage looked at her. "Are you thinking, this fat cat looks so strange, how could he possibly be the cat sage?" "Wait a minute, listen carefully to whatever he says, find the loopholes in his words." "Oh, you're thinking, how is it possible, how could this cat know what I'm thinking?" Raoul looked at the cat sage in astonishment. This was the first time the cat sage had shown his telepathic abilities in front of him, knowing so easily what others were thinking. Could it be that the cat sage also knew what he was thinking? The cat sage turned to look at Raoul and the other man, comforting them. "Don't be afraid. My telepathy only works well with those weaker than myself. The stronger the person, the harder it is to understand them. Don't worry, I know what you're thinking." "Oh, I see." Raoul breathed a sigh of relief, then became confused. "Wait a minute, what did the cat sage just say? Does he even know what I'm thinking?" Raoul was caught in a dilemma. Upon hearing the cat sage's words, Bra's wife immediately knelt down, head bowed, terrified. "I'm so sorry, sage. This is the first time I've seen a sage like this. I've offended you. Please forgive me." Raoul looked at the cat sage and said, "Cat sage, this man has quite a talent for martial arts. Teach him a lesson, and maybe he'll have a chance to protect Earth in the future. How about we teach them? As for climbing Korin Tower, once they're strong enough, you can have them climb it again." Bra looked at Raoul gratefully, then nervously looked at the sage. The sage sighed helplessly and said, "All right, I'll give you face this time, Raoul, and let them stay." Thank you, sage." Bra was extremely grateful, and his wife also thanked him respectfully. "I'm even more grateful to Raoul for giving me this opportunity." Bra turned his head and looked at Raoul with even more gratitude. He had already learned from the sage's conversation that his benefactor was named Raoul. "No need to kneel, stand up. You came here to learn skills, not to kneel." The cat sage licked the fur on his hand and said calmly. "Yes." Bra nodded and pulled his wife to stand up. "I wonder what the sage will teach Bra?" Raoul looked at the cat sage with curiosity. "See that raised platform in the center of the house? There's a bottle of super holy water on it." The cat sage pointed to a bottle that looked like an oil lamp on the platform. "This is the super holy water. After drinking it, it can increase your strength several times over." Bra looked at the inconspicuous bottle in surprise. "Yes, go drink it." The cat sage squinted, smiling at Bora. Okay, thank you for bestowing this holy water upon me, sage." Bora, with a mix of excitement and trepidation, walked towards the platform where the super holy water was placed. He slowly reached out, wanting to grasp the holy water and drink it. In their legend, drinking the super holy water would grant immense power. And today, Bora, the guardian of Korin Tower, was about to receive the super holy water bestowed by the sage. Bora's wife also watched this scene with excitement. She also hoped that Bora could drink the super holy water and gain great power. She was able to stay with Bora, at least for now, and she was definitely thinking of Bora's best interests, wanting him to become stronger. Bora reached out, grabbed, and Alice, it was gone. Bora rubbed his eyes, his vision seemed to blur for a moment, and then the super holy water disappeared. He turned around, just about to ask the sage what had happened, when he saw the super holy water hanging on the sage's staff. "This, sage, what's going on?" Bora asked curiously. Bora was a little confused, but Raoul, watching from the side, saw it all clearly. Just as Bora reached out, the cat sage moved with incredible speed to Bora's side, gently extending his cane to hook away the super holy water. Because of the speed, even with Bora's abilities, he didn't see it clearly. "Drink it. Just reach in and grab it," the cat sage urged, squinting. "Okay," Bora nodded. Although he didn't know why the super holy water had ended up with the sage again, he was determined to drink it. Bora reached out again, but the cat sage yawned and dodged again, The super holy water was just a hair's breadth away from Bora. Bora frowned, reaching out to hook the super holy water beside him, but the cat sage turned to look at Raul and the others who were about to leave, asking, "Raul, are you leaving?" "Yes, goodbye, Sage Korin. We'll come see you again next time," Raul waved and said with a smile. He watched as Bora stood behind Master Cat. Bora waved at him and then slowly and silently moved behind Master Cat, the super holy water hanging behind him. Bora lunged forward, but Master Cat cleverly moved forward 2 steps, thwarting Bora's attempt. Raul watched as Bora continued to lunge at Master Cat, flying away with Asyana. He could only wish him good luck. Even Master Roshi needed 3 years to get the bottle. He wondered how long it would take Bora, but it would definitely be a long story. He wasn't going to wait here. Asyana looked at Raul beside her, puzzled. "Raul, this must be your first time meeting that big guy, right? How did you help him get to Korin Tower and fulfill his wish?" Raul grinned and said, "Because I admire him." "Admire?" Asyana was confused. Raul just smiled, offering no explanation. He looked at the night sky. The moonlight was beautiful, and the moon was so round. Wait, a full moon? Chapter 33 Giant Ape Crisis. Earth, night. As time slowly passed, the black starry sky hung in the heavens. A bright and clear full moon hung in the night sky, its light bathing the entire earth in a silvery glow, as if shrouded in a silvery veil. "Oh no, it's a full moon!" Raul exclaimed in alarm. It was common knowledge that on a full moon, Saiyans exposed to over 17 million brushed waves of light would transform into giant apes if they stared at this light through their eyes and reflected it through their tails. The transformed apes' fighting power would increase tenfold. However, Raul hadn't considered using this method in regular combat. Because, except for those high-ranking Saiyans, most Saiyans would lose their minds after transforming into giant apes, and these giant apes, devoid of reason, would be ruthless and could easily harm or even kill their own family and friends. In the original story, Goku transformed into a giant ape on a full moon, and his grandfather, Gohan, accidentally failed to stop him and was instead stomped to death by Goku. True power is power that one can control. Power that cannot be controlled leads to irrationality, and Law disdains such power. He had originally planned to find an opportunity to address this issue later, but currently, he was busy training and traveling for Planet Vegeta, leaving no time to solve the Saiyan problem that had plagued countless Saiyans. Thump, thump, thump. Having glanced at the moon earlier, Law quickly looked down, yet he could still feel the changes in his body. His blood felt like it was boiling, a feeling that was gradually eroding his reason. His heart pounded louder and louder. Law looked down and saw the hairs on his arms standing on end, and his vision slowly blurred. "No, I can't transform into a great ape. The power is too violent right now. I might accidentally destroy the entire planet. Then I, Asyana, and all of humanity on Earth will be finished." Raul took a deep breath, steeling his resolve. He felt his consciousness growing increasingly blurred and immediately realized that if he didn't act now, he would lose his mind, and everything would be over. Raul's right hand formed a blade, and with a snap, he severed his furry tail. Phew. That scared me to death. I almost became a great ape and lost my mind. Raul breathed a sigh of relief and resolved to resolve the Saiyan tail issue in the future. However, he didn't want to cut off his tail unless absolutely necessary. Goku had once participated in the World Martial Arts Tournament when a flying monster wrapped its body in rubber. At that time, without a tail, he couldn't break free, but after growing a tail, he quickly broke free of the rubber's restraints. With a tail, Goku's strength was significantly enhanced. Raul wanted to maintain his sanity even when transformed into a great ape while still having a tail, which would be ideal. However, if he couldn't find a way, he had to resort to the less desirable option of having Kami remove his tail to prevent it from growing back. Kami, as the god of Earth and a genius of the Namekians, possessed special abilities that allowed him to remove his tail and prevent its regeneration. However, Raul still felt that maintaining his sanity while transformed into a great ape would be even better. 10 times the fighting power was no joke. Just as Raul breathed a sigh of relief, feeling confident that he had reacted quickly enough to cut off his tail and that he was completely safe, a roar from the side startled him awake. The Saiyan's madness had fully erupted after transforming into a great ape. A powerful aura burst forth from Asyana in her great ape form, and when it struck Raul, it made him tremble. Such a powerful aura. Raul stared solemnly at Asyana, who had transformed into a giant ape. Asyana had just undergone 3 stages of training, and her combat power had surged to 9,900. This meant that after transforming into a giant ape, her combat power exceeded 90,000, approaching 100,000. Ral's current combat power was only slightly over 50,000. When that powerful aura, nearly twice his own, swept outwards, he could personally feel its terrifying force. Suddenly, a thick white energy wave crashed towards them. Ral was startled and quickly dodged to the side. A massive mushroom cloud rose into the sky, and the powerful energy wave spewed from Asyana's mouth blasted into the distance, exploding on the ground. After the explosion, a violent gust of wind swept in, blowing Ral's hair back. Such power! If this power hit me, it wouldn't be a joke. Ral groaned, looking at the distant, flattened land. Fortunately, this place is barren. Apart from Kallen Tower, and the guardians who already reside beneath it, there are hardly any survivors here. If this were a city, the energy blast from the giant ape would have razed an entire city teeming with people to the ground. And that wasn't all. Asyana, transformed into a giant ape, had become a monster driven only by destruction. Boom, boom, boom. Thick energy blasts erupted again, flying in all directions. Huge mushroom clouds immediately rose again in the distant sky, and shockwaves swept in, causing the entire earth to tremble. It was supposed to be the dead of night, but thanks to Asyana's antics, the distant energy blasts had turned it as bright as day. Shockwaves swept in again and again, the space becoming dark and uncertain. Ral shielded his eyes with his arms, guarding against the sandstorms blown by the gale. We can't let Asyana continue to cause destruction, otherwise even if Earth is alright, this continent will probably be reduced to ruins. Asyana is no longer the girl who first arrived on Earth. When she first arrived, her combat power was only around 1500, which even in her great ape form, Ral could easily handle. Unexpectedly, after 3 stages of training, especially the tempering in the hyperbolic time chamber, Asyana's combat power has skyrocketed. After transforming into a great ape, even Ral is no match for her now. However, Ral can't just stand by and watch Asyana cause destruction. In the eyes of a Saiyan who has transformed into a great ape, only Saiyans who have also transformed into great apes are their allies, everyone else is their enemy. And Ral, who hasn't transformed into a great ape, naturally becomes an enemy that Asyana, now a great ape, can eliminate. Ral, who had been flying and moving around Asyana since earlier, caught the eye of the great ape Asyana, and immediately, she launched an attack on him. Chapter 34 / What does it mean for Roel, with a power level of just over 50,000, to face a great ape with a power level approaching 100,000? Seeing the great ape Asyana pounce towards him, Roel didn't believe he could fight her head on and immediately soared into the air. The great ape Asyana let out a deafening roar, smashing a nearby hill with a single punch, venting her fury. Phew, thankfully great apes can't fly. Roel breathed a sigh of relief. Flying requires some skill. When Asyana wasn't out of her mind, she could easily fly even with a power level of 90, let alone over 9,000. However, the great ape Asyana, without a reason, had no habit of concentrating. She was attacking only on instinct. How could she control her body to fly? At this moment, maintaining rationality after transforming into a great ape becomes extremely important. Vegeta, who had just arrived on Earth, was an upper-level Saiyan and maintained his rationality after transforming into a great ape. He could not only fly and perform various high-difficulty maneuvers but also use various key techniques. This was the ideal Saiyan after the great ape transformation in Roel's mind. Roar! The great ape Asyana opened her blood-red maw, aimed at Roel, and spewed out a powerful beam of energy. This was her only ranged attack after transforming into a great ape. This was energy that was casually gathered from within her body, like swinging her arm a couple of times. It didn't require conscious control, so even as a great ape, she could use it. However, her intentions were too obvious. A great ape without reason is just a larger ape. Roel had been watching the great ape's movements closely as Asyana opened her mouth to gather energy. When she unleashed the energy beam, he easily dodged to the side. The beam shot towards Earth's atmosphere, and unsurprisingly, its energy was quickly dissipated through long-distance friction. He can't hit it. Roel turned to look at the beam of energy flying into the sky and smiled slightly. When he turned back to see if Asyana had any special moves, he saw a huge rock crushing towards his body. Holy shit! Ral cursed, breaking out in a cold sweat. He immediately unleashed a Kamehameha wave, the powerful energy blast striking the boulder. With a deafening boom, the boulder shattered into dust, turning into clouds of dust. Luckily, I reacted quickly enough. I didn't expect the giant ape to be so stupid. It actually knew to grab the rock and throw it. Raul breathed a sigh of relief, thinking he had escaped another disaster. Taking advantage of the moment Raul shattered the boulder, the giant ape Asyana leaped into the air. Although Asyana in her giant ape form couldn't fly, she could jump incredibly high. Raul's eyes widened. Having just used the Kamehameha to blast a boulder, he couldn't react in time and could only watch helplessly as the giant ape's fist, the size of a sandbag, slammed into his chest. A dull thud echoed from where Raul's chest met the massive fist. Raul spat out a mouthful of blood, feeling as if his internal organs had been injured, intense pain coursing through his body. Raul was struck by the punch and sent flying hundreds of meters away, crashing into a pile of rubble in the distance. With a deafening roar, the rubble exploded, shattering rocks into fragments that flew in all directions. Raul smashed through boulders and slammed into the ground, creating a crater before finally stopping his descent. Raul clutched his chest. Feeling the excruciating pain of the punch, he had nearly passed out. Asyana, you're trying to kill me. Wasn't it supposed to be that the giant ape form would be mindless? How come this is all happening at once? The giant ape Asyana, seeing her enemy finally struck and sent flying, let out a deafening roar, expressing her joy. Raul's eyes followed Asyana intently, searching for a solution. If this continued, he feared he would be beaten to death by the giant ape Asyana. Of course, Raul wouldn't surrender so easily. If Asyana had remained rational and possessed a combat power of 100,000, Raul would definitely have fled in panic. But against this stupid giant ape with only a sliver of reason, he was confident he could handle it. I never thought I'd be fighting you one day, Asyana, but I'll definitely be the winner. Raul's eyes were bright and piercing as he stared at the giant ape Asyana in the distance. The giant ape seemed to want to see if he was dead, and it walked towards him step by step. Because of the giant ape's enormous size, each step covered a great distance, and it would probably reach Raul in no time. The simplest way to deal with a giant ape is to cut off its tail. But if I charge in head-on, with a power difference of almost twice, I might still get hit by a punch, and then I'd be close to death. It would be much easier if there were two of us. One could stand in front, while the other could circle around behind a giant ape and easily cut off its tail. After transforming into a giant ape, Asyana shouldn't be able to determine her location through aura sensing. She'll have to rely on her eyes like a normal alien. Rely on her eyes. Raul frowned, looking at the dust kicked up by his impact. Some dust got into his eyes, making him rub them. Suddenly, an idea struck him. I've got it. Raul's furrowed brow relaxed. Since the giant ape couldn't determine its location through aura and could only rely on its eyes, that would be much simpler, just make it blind. Raul soared into the air, smiling as he watched Asyana stride rapidly towards him. He shouted, "Come on, great ape!" Hearing its defeated prey dare to roar at it, the great ape roared in fury, leaping across most of the distance to reach Raul. Raul looked at the great ape before him. The great ape roared again, opening its blood-red maw, its mouth emitting an increasingly intense light, a sign of energy recondensing. I've been waiting for this moment. During the energy condensation, the great ape paused for a fleeting instant, much shorter than the time it took to condense a Kamehameha, but there was still a time lag. Raul stretched out his hand, this time not using a Kamehameha, but a simpler energy wave. A blue-white energy wave shot towards the ground like a rocket. With a deafening boom, the energy wave exploded on the ground. The powerful impact caused the great ape to lose its footing, disrupting its energy condensation process. Simultaneously, a thick cloud of dust rose into the air, obscuring the great ape's vision. Roar! The giant ape roared, its massive arms flailing wildly as it couldn't see its target. At that moment, Raul had already circled behind the giant ape, watching its erratic movements with a smile, and rushed towards its tail. Let's try my unique key circle slash, crescent slash. Raul unleashed his signature move, the crescent slash, which he had honed for a year in the hyperbolic time chamber. A crescent-shaped energy slash shot out instantly as Raul swung his arm, slowly expanding as it slashed towards the giant ape Asyana's tail. With a soft slicing sound, the giant ape's tail was easily severed as if cut by a sharp blade, the massive tail falling to the ground. Roar! The giant ape let out a painful roar, turning its head to see the culprit. Even as its body shrank, it kicked Raul. Raul froze, seeing the giant foot getting closer and closer. It had already severed the tail, yet it still came at him, cheating. Thud. Ra was kicked away again, while the giant ape Asyana slowly lost her fur and her body began to shrink to normal size. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 First Taste of Senzu Beans. Ra lay weakly on the ground, spitting out 2 more mouthfuls of blood. Cough cough, I got used to it after a while. Ouch, it really hurts. I'm almost back to my original form, and I can still slap myself. Asyana, are you sure you didn't do it on purpose? Huff, sigh. Ra lay motionless on the ground, panting heavily, somewhat helpless. He couldn't move now and could only wait until he regained some strength before going to find the Senzu Bean. Damn it, he had been so focused on the Senzu Bean that he had been holding it in his arms, and when he was first blasted away by the great ape, he and the Senzu Bean crashed into a pile of rocks. Now, he was hundreds of meters away from that place, and with the pain and weakness all over his body, he couldn't reach the Senzu Bean at all. On the other side, Asyana, who had returned to human form, hadn't suffered any serious injuries and quickly regained consciousness. Ah! Asyana let out a sharp scream. As soon as she woke up, she saw that she was completely naked, her fair skin exposed, revealing a faint rosy glow in the moonlight, soft and delicate. Asyana, pale with fright, immediately took out a capsule, pressed the switch, and threw it to the ground. Ra had bought many capsules, and naturally gave Asyana a lot as well. Asyana took out a piece of clothing from one of the capsules, dressed herself, and then breathed a sigh of relief. Asyana's face was still flushed, somewhat shy. Her first thought was whether Ra had done something, although it wasn't entirely impossible. No, no. Asyana shook her head, patting her increasingly flushed cheeks. No, she couldn't think like that. She frowned, trying to recall, but found her memory somewhat hazy. Huh, where's Ra? Asyana flew into the air, looking at the chaotic scene around her. The huge crater left by the explosion resembled a battlefield filled with smoke and fire, and the deep trenches in the ground showed how severe the destruction had been. Asyana looked up at the sky and saw the bright full moon. Looking at the devastated scene around her, she immediately understood. Giant ape. It must be because I transformed into a giant ape just now, otherwise how could this happen? Where's Roar? He didn't transform into a giant ape. My tail is broken. On this planet, Roar should be the only one who knows that cutting off one's tail is the only way to return to normal. Damn it. Roar didn't transform into a giant ape. Instead, he cut off my tail to stop me from continuing to transform into a giant ape and cause destruction. Asyana's face was pale. Looking at her own appearance and then at her surroundings, she immediately understood what had happened. The new combat power detector had been destroyed when she transformed into a giant ape, and now Asyana was using the effects of her training. Asyana concentrated, and the surrounding energy appeared in her mind one by one. Most of them were only a tiny bit, like a candle flickering in the wind, and very distant. Only one huge and unstable energy appeared in her perception. Found it. Asyana shouted and rushed to the location she sensed. She saw a figure lying in the location of the huge energy, with tattered clothes and covered in blood. Roll. Asyana was startled and immediately rushed down, landing beside Roll and shaking him. Roll, how are you? Cough cough. Roll coughed twice, opened his eyes, and said weakly, stop shaking me, or I'll really die. Asyana paced anxiously. Tears streaming down her face, filled with self-reproach. Roll, are you alright? Roll smiled twice, which aggravated his wounds, causing him to wince in pain. Finally, he slowly said, do I look alright? Stop shaking me, help me up, let's fly to that pile of rocks over there and find some senzu beans. Okay. Asyana breathed a sigh of relief. It was good that Roll was alright. She carefully helped Roll up and they flew away. Where is it? Roll struggled to open his eyes, pointing a spot. There, cough cough, fly there. Okay. Asyana immediately hugged Roll tightly and flew towards the pile of rocks, saying with concern as she flew, Roll, hang in there. Is that senzu bean really that magical? Yes. Roll nodded weakly, catching his breath. Get down quickly, put me down, Find the senzu bean. Asyana nodded, slowly landing to the side, placing Raul on the grass against a large rock, and quickly ran to find the senzu bean. Although the senzu beans were small, they were scattered all over the ground. Soon, Asyana found one and rushed back to Raul. Here, the senzu bean. Asyana gently helped Raul up, holding his head against her soft, supple thigh, and fed him the senzu bean. Raul was now unable to feel where he was leaning against, his whole body aching terribly. He opened his mouth and, following Asyana's feeding, slowly swallowed the senzu bean. Only after swallowing a senzu bean did he realize its preciousness. Senzu beans are divine healing objects. After eating a senzu bean, Raul felt it instantly transform into a surge of energy. This energy rapidly circulated through his internal organs, expanding before quickly contracting again. Raul's internal energy was instantly replenished, and the open wounds on his body healed in an instant, leaving only traces of blood to indicate where the wounds had been. Raul, who had been dead, was instantly revived, his eyes snapping open as he leaped into the air. Great! I don't need 20 years, I'm a hero now. Raul laughed heartily. The feeling of being filled with immense power was incredibly exhilarating. Asyana blinked, watching Raul fly around in the sky, his previously half-dead state now transformed into a lively and energetic individual. If it weren't for the bloodstains on Raul's body and the ravaged surroundings still vivid in her mind, she would have thought she was dreaming. Is this the effect of senzu beans? It's truly amazing. Asyana's eyes shone. She had only heard Raul talk about how powerful senzu beans were before, but she had never seen them. Now, seeing them with her own eyes, she could finally understand the power. If we Saiyans had possessed these senzu beans before, the mortality rate would probably have been greatly reduced. And there would have been more Saiyans who were resurrected from the brink of death, and there would probably have been many, many super strong individuals. Raul flew in the sky for a while, clenching his fist. He felt that his strength had not only fully recovered, but also, because he had just recovered from serious injuries, his Saiyan bloodline had taken effect, and his strength had increased again. It's a pity that both Asyana and I had our sensors destroyed in the battle just now, otherwise we could have known how much we had improved. Raul thought to himself as he saw Asyana standing among the rubble, slowly flying down. Raul, those senzu beans are truly amazing. I never expected you to be completely unharmed. Asyana looked at Raul with delight, feeling the immense and abundant energy emanating from his body. Yes, that's the magic of senzu beans, which is why I value them so much, Raul said with a smile, then his expression changed drastically. Oh no. The senzu beans are scattered all around here. Asyana, quick, help me find them. Okay. Asyana was also anxious. She had witnessed the power of the senzu beans firsthand, she couldn't let such a magical thing be lost. At this moment, the two strongest warriors on Earth were anxiously lying on the ground, their backsides sticking out as they rummaged through the ruins, searching for the scattered senzu beans. Chapter 36 The Gods' Worries. Such terrifying destructive power. Is this what Saiyans are like? Both the cat sage of Korinta and the kami of Kami's lookout were awakened by the violent, extraordinary aura emanating from Asyana after she transformed into a great ape. They immediately focused their attention on the battlefield between Great Ape Asyana and Raul, witnessing the immense destructive power and the overwhelming force capable of destroying everything. Even Kami shuddered at the sight. Sweating profusely, Kami stood on the edge of Kami's lookout, leaning on his cane, gazing at the battlefield. Great Ape Asyana's fighting power was truly terrifying. Let alone ordinary earthlings, even someone like himself would be instantly reduced to ashes upon contact with that energy wave. Fortunately, Raul managed to stop the disaster, otherwise Earth might have been reduced to nothing. And thankfully, Korin gave us senzu beans, and Raul recovered. It's just that the Saiyans' power after transforming into great apes is terrifying, and they seem to lack consciousness, existing only in destructiveness. Kami frowned. The destructive power hidden in the Saiyans' nature terrified even a god like himself. Then, he sighed helplessly and muttered to himself, but now it's no longer a time for me, a god, to decide everything. I can only hope that other Saiyans will be like Raul and Raul, without any covetousness towards Earth. Papo. Kami looked at Papo beside him, and Papo immediately replied, Papo's here. Is there anything Kami needs from Papo? Papo, go down to Earth and find Master Roshi and Master Shen. They are the two strongest people on Earth right now, and the development of martial arts on Earth depends on them leading the way. Papo understands. Popo nodded. He would definitely carry out Kami's orders. Instead of flying, Popo summoned a giant flying carpet and rode on it, speeding out of Kami's lookout. Earth, Kami murmured, gazing into the distance from the edge of the lookout. He felt that with Raul and his Saiyan companion's arrival, Earth would never be ordinary again. Therefore, Kami broke with tradition, wanting to nurture Earth's strong individuals and vigorously develop its martial arts. Earth, a storm is brewing. I hope this storm comes later, giving the people of Earth some time. 9996, 9997, 9998. Raul looked at the senzu beans hidden in a piece of cloth in his arms. He and Asyana had dug every inch of the surrounding area, finding only 9,998 senzu beans. Originally, there were 10,005 senzu beans. After eating one, they should have had 10,004 left. But no matter how hard they searched, they only found 9,998. Sigh, it seems they were broken in the battle just now. Raul sighed. Although senzu beans possess unparalleled healing effects, they are just relatively hard beans and easily destroyed. Raul, it's all my fault. If you wanted to hit me, just hit me. Asyana lowered her head. This magical item had cost her 6 precious senzu beans. It was truly a sin. It's alright, I know you didn't want to. Raul sighed inwardly, but outwardly smiled and comforted Asyana. What a pity. Now there are only 9,000 or so left, less than 10,000, too few. Seeing Asyana's dejected and frustrated expression, Raul smiled and walked over, stroking her soft hair, comforting her. It's alright, it's gone, it's gone. We have plenty more. Come on, let's go to the nearest town and buy a sturdy bottle to put them in. Yes, such precious things must be stored carefully. We can't lose these beans so easily again. Asyana raised her head, clenched her small fist, and waved it twice. Seeing Asyana regain her spirits, Raul smiled. That's right, we should hurry and find an indestructible bottle. Raul and Asyana flew to the nearest bustling city and found a rather luxurious-looking shop. Boss, Raul called out as soon as he entered. Coming, the shopkeeper approached, smiling as he saw a robust young man and a beautiful young woman approaching. What do you two need? Do you have any jars or sturdy boxes here? Raul asked. Jars and boxes, yes, the shopkeeper said with a smile. I wonder what you'd like to put in them, sir? I'd like to recommend something. Oh, so many beans, Raul nodded, revealing the senzu beans in his bag. The shopkeeper was stunned. He had never seen anyone make such a big fuss about buying beans, even bringing all the beans themselves. It was truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience. However, adhering to the principle that a customer is always right, he didn't say much, smiling and nodding. Yes, of course, please wait a moment. Okay, Raul nodded and waited. Asyana remained silent, observing the various strange and unusual items in the shop. Here you are. These are all the cans we have in the shop: iron cans, ceramic cans, alloy cans, large cans, small cans, square cans, and many other kinds. Please choose one, sir. Do you have the hardest can? Raul asked. Yes, we do. The shopkeeper nodded, taking out a very thick alloy can. He boasted, this large can is so strong that even a dinosaur couldn't break it. Sir, can I try it? Will I have to pay if it breaks? Raul examined the can with suspicion. Of course not, please feel free to test it. The shopkeeper smiled confidently. Raul nodded, took the can from the shopkeeper, weighed it in his hands, and then squeezed it with both palms. With a creaking sound, the can was crushed into a flat disc by the powerful force. Sir, this can isn't sturdy enough. Raul shook his head, somewhat dissatisfied. Do you have any sturdier jars? The shopkeeper stared in disbelief, almost dropping his jaw. He shook his head and said blankly, this is already the sturdiest jar in our shop. We don't have any sturdier jars. No more? Luo shook his head. He planned to go to the western capital to look for one. No, but if you need a sturdier jar, that's possible, but it needs to be custom made. The shopkeeper thought for a moment and then said, the customer will probably have to wait a while. Custom made? That's not impossible. How sturdy is it? Luo asked curiously. It's definitely made of aerospace-grade titanium alloy. It won't break even if you throw it directly into space. I guarantee it's the sturdiest jar you can find on Earth. It might be a little expensive, though. A deposit of 5,000, and the remaining 95,000 after it arrives, How about that? The shopkeeper looked at Luo'er. He was also curious that a jar could sell for so much money. Was it worth using such an expensive jar to hold these beans? Were they pure gold beans, 100,000? Luo'er nodded. In the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament, Master Roshi won the championship and received 500,000 yen. That means a fifth of the championship prize was gone in a small jar. Okay, it has to be sturdy. No shortcuts, otherwise. Raoul glanced at the shopkeeper, coldly staring at him. Although the shopkeeper couldn't sense ki, he sensed the special atmosphere through his biological instincts and turned pale with fright. He quickly said, "No problem, absolutely no problem. You can come back here to pick it up in 3 days." Okay. Raoul nodded, took out a deposit of 5,000 yen, and walked out with Asyana. Asyana followed Raoul to a secluded corner and asked, "Raoul, where are we going now? To the western capital?" Raoul shook his head and said, "No, we're going to Baozi Mountain." Baozi Mountain? Asyana blinked. Where was that? "Let's go," Raoul said, flying into the air. Asyana followed closely behind, transforming into 2 streaks of light and quickly flying towards Baozi Mountain. Chapter 37 Baozi Mountain. The phrase picturesque mountains and clear waters, birdsong and fragrant flowers perfectly describes Baozi Mountain. However, in this Dragon Ball world, a world teeming with dinosaurs and all sorts of strange creatures, living deep in the forest is no easy feat. Whoosh! Several wolves darted through the jungle, searching for food. They stopped to drink from a stream. Bubbling water rose and fell as one wolf drank peacefully. Suddenly, a monstrous fish, larger than the wolf and with a mouthful of fangs, leaped from the water, grabbed the wolf's forelimb, and dragged it into the river. The surrounding wolves howled and fled in panic. Boom, boom, boom. A massive triceratops darted through the trees, instantly silencing the forest. As the triceratops receded, a saber-toothed tiger emerged from the woods. "What a picturesque scene, with birdsong and fragrant flowers," exclaimed Roel, strolling quickly with Asyana on Baozi Mountain. "Roel, I'm a little hungry. Let's find something to eat." Asyana rubbed her soft belly. She'd transformed into a giant ape and then quickly returned to normal, and she was quite hungry. "Of course. We'll find something to eat here," Roel said with a smile. Asyana nodded, not caring much. For her, and most Saiyans, being able to eat their fill was enough. They weren't that picky about food. Saiyans had pretty strong survival skills. They could eat almost any non-toxic organic matter and digest it quickly, which was why they could conquer different planets. Conquering a planet was a long undertaking, and they couldn't carry large amounts of food, so Saiyans had to find what they could find and eat it. "This is it. I saw some really big fish earlier." Roel looked at the river, took off his shirt and pants, and leaped forward, splashing into the water. Asyana waited quietly on the riverbank. A moment later, the river roared and burst open, and a fish larger than an adult was flung ashore. Asyana looked at the struggling fish, walked over, and kicked it. The fish was slammed into a tree, its eyes rolled back, and it was dead. Raoul, soaking wet, leaped out of the river, smiling, and said, "Asyana, go find some firewood. We're having grilled fish today." "Okay," Asyana nodded. Such a big fish could easily feed the 2 of them. Raoul immediately took off his underwear, threw it away, and put on a new pair. He burned the old ones to ashes with a small ki blast. A while later, Asyana returned carrying a large pile of firewood. Raoul aimed his hand at the firewood, smiled slightly, controlled his energy, and a small ki blast shot towards the firewood. With a crisp crackling sound, the firewood ignited. "Hey, this is so convenient, we don't even need a lighter." Roel chuckled as he and Asyana placed a large fish on a branch and began grilling it. Roel thought that even if ki blasts weren't used in combat, they had many other applications. For example, in the wilderness, grilling didn't require a lighter or flint, ki blasts were all you needed. Ki blasts, truly an essential skill for home, travel, murder, and arson. Roel exclaimed. Asyana simply watched the fish grill. She was used to Roel's frequent ramblings. The fish sizzled and crackled as it grilled, quickly releasing a delicious aroma that was particularly noticeable in the forest. "Let me try it, see if I can eat it." Roel reached out and tore off a large piece of meat. The aroma of the fish filled his nose, and after eating a piece, he nodded. Delicious, flavorful. Indeed. High-end ingredients often only require the simplest cooking methods. Chef Luo, who's been busy all day. Luo, what are you talking about? Is it edible or not? Asyana, hearing Luo rambling on again, was somewhat exasperated, her forehead practically creased with exasperation. Oh, I almost forgot, it's edible, eat up. Luo nodded with a smile. Okay, then I'll eat it. Asyana didn't stand on ceremony and immediately tore off a large piece of fish and began to eat. Luo wasn't to be outdone. After finishing a large piece of fish, he immediately tore off another large piece and began to devour it. After a while, they had almost finished the whole fish. Hey, I was wondering why there was such a nice smell here. Turns out you're grilling fish here. An old voice rang out, and an old man carrying a basket on his back slowly walked out of the nearby woods. The old man had white hair but a youthful face. Although his body was hunched, his eyes were bright and piercing, like a reclusive master from a fantasy novel. Are you two young people here for tourism? Be careful, this mountain is not peaceful, there are wolves and tigers. The old man warned with a smile. Thank you for reminding me. Luo stood up and said with a smile, we came here to find a person. No, it should be a ball. A crystal ball, about the size of a baseball, with stars inside. I wonder if you've ever seen one before, sir? Yes, I have. The old man looked at him in surprise. Recently, I found one with 4 stars inside. I thought it belonged to no one, but I took it home because it was pretty. Oh, it's yours. Luo nodded in delight, then shook his head. No, sir, I do need that 4-star ball, the bead with 4 stars inside, but it's for something important. This 4-star ball is exactly what I need. I wonder if you could lend it to me, sir? I'll return it to you after I've used it. The old man chuckled and said, no problem. Seeing how eager you are, I know you really need it. To me, it's just a pretty decoration. If you want it, I'll give it to you. Thank you, Luo said gratefully. Follow me. My home is on the mountaintop, quite far. I don't know if you two young people can handle the climb and keep up. If not, stay here and wait for me. I'll be right back. We can keep up, old man. Please go ahead, we'll follow behind. Raoul nodded with a smile. The only old man living on Paozu Mountain was probably Gahun. Although Paozu Mountain had beautiful scenery, as the old man said, it was teeming with ferocious beasts. Most people wouldn't survive long living there. Raoul was excited at the thought of seeing Goku's future home. Alright, come on, you two, the old man said with a smile, turning and walking up the mountain, with Raoul and Asyana following behind. Chapter 38 4-star. May I ask your honorable name, sir? Son Gohan, just a lonely fellow. Raoul was filled with respect. Sure enough, he was Son Gohan, the grandfather of the invincible Goku whom he had raised. His death, however, was rather tragic. Hello, Grandpa Son Gohan. My name is Raoul, and this is Asyana, Raoul introduced. Good. Son Gohan nodded, somewhat surprised. Although he wasn't the fastest, most people couldn't keep up. He had originally planned to slow down, but these two young people had been closely following him, showing no signs of fatigue. It seems these two young people are also promising martial artists. Son Gohan felt a sense of relief. Even after his retirement, martial arts hadn't completely declined. Sir, have you ever heard of a great ape that can transform? Raoul thought for a moment, deciding to offer a heads up. Of course, he would definitely visit Mount Paozu again sometime in the future. Humans can transform into great apes? Gohan asked doubtfully. I've never heard of that. These people transform into giant apes on the night of a full moon, with incredible destructive power. However, if you can cut off their tail, they'll transform back, Raoul solemnly reminded him. If you encounter such a person in the future, don't let them come out on the night of a full moon. If you're unlucky enough to let them see the moon and transform into a great ape, you must circle around and cut off their tail. Don't confront them head-on. Oh, okay. Gohan nodded, indicating that he remembered, seeing how seriously the young man named Raoul was giving him this advice. However, he was thinking to himself, aren't only werewolves the only ones who can transform on the night of a full moon? How come there are great apes too? That's strange. The three chatted and laughed all the way, and soon they reached the top of Mount Paozu. There was a small wooden house on the top of the mountain. Unlike the round buildings outside, it had a bit of a Chinese classical style. We're here. Please wait here for a moment, I'll go get the 4 stars, Gohan said, putting down the basket on his back and entering the house. Raul noticed that Gohan's basket was tilted, containing some herbs. After a while, Gohan came out and took out a glittering ball containing 4 stars. The stars were visible from any direction, quite magical. Here, this is the 4-star ball you wanted, Gohan said with a smile, handing it to Raul and the others. Raul took this most amazing thing in the Dragon Ball world, nodding with a smile. That's right, it's the 4-star ball. Then, Grandpa Gohan, we'll take our leave. Alright, welcome back next time. I'm quite bored here alone, Gohan said with a smile. I believe that when I come back next time, the old man will have his grandson to keep him company, Raul blurted out of the blue. Gohan was puzzled. Grandson? I'm not married, I don't even have a son, how could I have a grandson? Oh no, I've said too much? Law covered his mouth, then released his hand, smiling mysteriously. You'll find out when the time comes. Farewell. Law, holding the 4-star stone, slowly rose into the air. Asyana followed behind, and the two transformed into a streak of light once more, this time heading towards West Capital. Flying technique. Gohan exclaimed in surprise, not expecting the two to be even stronger than he had imagined. Truly promising young men. Gohan smiled kindly and entered a secluded house, as he had done for many years. Law. Didn't you say we shouldn't fly in front of humans on Earth to avoid causing chaos? Asyana asked curiously from the sky. She had thought Law would fly into a deserted forest, but he had flown away directly, though she didn't care. Oh, that's different. Gohan is also an excellent martial artist. He knows about the flying technique, so there's no need for him to hide it, Raul explained. Oh. Asyana suddenly understood. She just hadn't expected that besides the people in Korin Tower and Kami's Lookout, there were other people on Earth who knew how to fly. West Capital. As the headquarters of Capsule Corporation, even more than a decade before Goku's emergence and the official start of the Dragon Ball world, it was already a very prosperous metropolis. Raul hadn't thought much of it at first, but after traveling so far on Earth and seeing so many backward villages, many of which were still like primitive people without even electricity, he was shocked by West Capital's prosperity. West Capital and those small villages seemed like two different worlds, people from different centuries. Ring ring. Raul rang the doorbell, and soon Brief's wife opened the door and came in. She was already used to seeing the two of them. Mrs. Brief smiled and said, "Oh dear, it's you again. You've come to see my husband, haven't you? He's still in the lab, right where you first met. I've arranged to go shopping with the lady next door, so I won't keep you company. You go ahead, bye-bye." Mrs. Brief cheerfully and lightly walked out of the room to go shopping with the lady next door. How wonderful, Mrs. Brief, you seem so happy every day, Raul said with a smile. Mrs. Brief seemed to be cheerful every day. Asyana, let's go. Raul and his Saiyan walked through the long, winding rooms and arrived at the laboratory at the back of Bulma's house. He saw Dr. Brief repairing a floating plate, wondering what it was for. Raul coughed and called out, "Dr. Brief, I'm back. I wonder if the gravity chamber has been completed?" Dr. Brief, as always, was wearing a white lab coat. Hearing the voice, he put down his work and saw Aura and his Saiyan. "Oh, it's you all. The gravity chamber is complete and ready to use. Please follow me." Dr. Brief led them out of the laboratory and into another corridor. Raul followed excitedly behind Dr. Brief, while Asyana looked on with curiosity. "We're here." Dr. Brief pushed open a white door, revealing a spacious interior. The room was pure white, with a thick cylinder standing in the center. Raul was immediately drawn to the black cylinder. This room was designed according to your requirements. It could withstand powerful impacts without easily breaking. However, be careful of the central pillar. This machine controls gravity. Gravity ranges from 1 to 100. A number of 1 represents 1 times the normal Earth's gravity, and 100 represents 100 times the Earth's gravity. I remind you again, be careful of the effects of gravity. If you can't withstand it, you could die. It's perfect. Thank you, Dr. Brief. I will train carefully and won't push myself beyond my limits from the start. Raul said with a smile, excitedly walking over to look at the buttons. The above operations are very simple, all of them are foolproof and easy to learn. And this is the training ground where Raul's combat power can be greatly improved again, the gravity chamber. Chapter 39 Gravity Chamber Training. Doctor briefly explained how to use the gravity chamber and was about to leave when Raoul called him back. Dr. Brief, there's something else I need your help with. Raoul scratched his head sheepishly, but there weren't many people on Earth who could make that thing. Dr. Brief was the only one he knew. Oh, what is it? Dr. Brief asked, puzzled. He didn't really care. He spent his days researching all sorts of things anyway. These are the Dragon Balls. There are 7 in total, but I only have 1 right now. I want to find the others. Raoul took out the 4-star Dragon Ball he'd gotten from Kahan. They're scattered all over the world. Searching for them directly is like looking for a needle in a haystack. So, I'd like to ask Dr. Brief to make an instrument that can detect this Dragon Ball. Is that alright? Of course, I can pay for it. Dr. Brief glanced at Raoul indifferently and said, I'm not interested in money. Nobody's as rich as me. I'm more interested in the Dragon Ball you're talking about. What is its purpose? Can you tell me why you're looking for it? Raoul smiled awkwardly. Indeed, as the president of Capsule Corporation, currently the richest company on Earth, Dr. Brief was certainly not short of money. Raoul's startup capital was something he'd casually allocated. Speaking of startup capital, Raoul suddenly remembered that his company had been registered on time, but he hadn't dealt with it until now. That special jar will be ready in 2 or 3 days. When you go to pick it up, take care of the company while you're at it. Raoul snapped out of his reverie, looked at Dr. Brief, and explained, oh, there are 7 Dragon Balls in total. Once you collect them all, you can summon Shinran, who can grant 1 wish to anyone who collects them. Interesting, like a story from a children's book. Dr. Brief took the Dragon Ball from Raoul with interest. Alright, I'll take it. Dr. Brief weighed the Dragon Ball in his hand. It should be ready soon. Thank you, Doctor. Raoul smiled and thanked him. Having an all-knowing doctor is great, he can make almost anything. The Saiyans don't have doctors, the most knowledgeable people are the support staff who have little combat ability. Sigh, how pitiful. Dr. Brief took the Dragon Ball and left the gravity chamber. Raoul got an empty bottle from Dr. Brief's house, filled it with the Dragon Ball, and placed it aside, intending to begin training with Asyana. Asyana, are you ready? Looking at Asyana's excited yet nervous expression, Raoul chuckled and asked. Yes, Raoul, let's begin. Asyana nodded, her body trembling with excitement. The special training she'd received last time had brought her combat power close to 10,000. How much more would this gravity chamber training, which Raoul had been eagerly anticipating, increase her power? Asyana's eyes shone brightly, she was truly excited. Alright, let's get started. Raoul closed the door. Using a gravity chamber required a sealed environment, doors and windows couldn't be left open. We've only ever trained with 10x gravity on Planet Vegeta before, so let's start with 20x. Raoul said as he manipulated the machine, adjusting the gravity regulator to 20. Buzzing sounds. The gravity machine began to emit a deep sound, and the surrounding air seemed to change. Raoul felt his body slowly becoming heavier. With the machine's final hum, the gravity here had become 20 times that of Earth. Raoul's body became incredibly heavy, his legs trembling slightly. He grimaced and said, as expected, 20 times gravity is something else entirely. This pressure is truly immense. Gravity training compresses every part of the body, head, limbs, torso, even the internal organs. Every bone, every drop of blood is compressed by gravity. Under such immense gravity, one dares not do anything, needing to use all one's strength to resist this immense force every moment, let alone engage in strenuous exercise. It is precisely because of this that gravity training can achieve additional effects, allowing one's potential to be fully realized. Ah! A painful groan came from Asyana beside him. It turned out that the moment that 20 times gravity arrived, she was so crushed that she almost fell to the ground. Asyana, are you alright? Raoul turned to Asyana, his voice heavy. Under this 20 times gravity, even ordinary speech and slight movements were difficult. It's okay. Asyana gritted her teeth, trying to answer Raoul's question. I can still manage. Okay. Raoul nodded and began training. Phew, super fast training is too difficult now. My combat power is high, I should be able to adapt to 20 times gravity quickly. Let's start with the most basic training. Raoul thought for a moment and decided to start with basic training to adapt to 20 times gravity first. Push-ups, begin, 1, 2, 3. Raoul lay on the ground and began doing push-ups. Each push-up under 20 times gravity was incredibly intense. But this is more like it. This is the effect I want. Ra usually doesn't do these basic exercises because even if he did 10,000 push-ups, it wouldn't do him any good. Only in this special environment could he get the training effect. As for Asyana, she was still trying to adapt to walking. She walked with a trembling gait, pausing after every 2 steps, making it impossible for her to continue training. Ra and Asyana began to adapt to the gravity chamber environment in their own ways. 100, 101, 102, 103. This was Ra counting as he did push-ups. Thump, thump, thump. The heavy footsteps were Asyana's staggering footsteps in the gravity chamber. Concentrated training always makes time slip by unnoticed. 9,998, 9,999, 10,000. Ra suddenly scrambled to his feet. He had completed 10,000 push-ups and was basically used to doing normal training under 20 times gravity. Ra turned to look at Asyana. Asyana could now walk, at least like an ordinary person outside, able to stand upright, though her face was still damp with sweat. Ra, Asyana, it's lunchtime. Come out for lunch. Dr. Brief's voice came through the microphone in the corner. Okay, Ra shouted, wiping the sweat from his face and readjusting the gravity chamber to 1. At the dining table, seeing only Dr. Brief alone, and a large table laden with food, Raoul was puzzled and surprised. Where's Mrs. Brief? And this whole table of food, did you cook all this, Doctor? Dr. Brief sat down and started eating, saying, don't be shy, eat up. My wife's still out, she won't be back for dinner. These dishes were cooked by the kitchen robot I made, they taste pretty good. A cooking robot? Raoul clicked his tongue in amazement, took a bite, and found it surprisingly delicious. Eat up, it won't taste good when it gets cold, Dr. Brief said, eating a few bites before leaving. Before leaving, Dr. Brief suddenly said, I have an idea, I'll go test it out. You guys continue eating. Raoul and Asyana exchanged bewildered glances at the large table of food before them. Dr. Brief was so casual and efficient. Chapter 40 The King's Speech. That same day, in the evening, Ra and Asyana had just finished their gravity chamber training, taken a shower, and were sitting on the sofa watching television when they suddenly saw a special news item. Ra recognized the person on it. He had recently had a friendly discussion with him. It was the cat and dog-like king of Earth. The king, wearing glasses, took out a manuscript and read the lines aloud with a serious expression and a heavy tone. After discussions with my ministers, I have officially decided to vigorously develop martial arts on Earth. From now on, martial arts will be considered one of the 2 most important things, alongside technological development. I hope our citizens will attach great importance to its development. Now, I will briefly outline some key points regarding the development plan for martial arts. First, all schools will offer martial arts-related subjects. Every academy must have martial arts courses and excellent martial arts teachers to continue operating. I hope all institutions will prioritize martial arts courses. Of course, given this is a first-time proposal and somewhat sudden, academies will have ample time to find martial arts teachers. However, please take this seriously. If a month has passed and no teachers have been found, please apply to higher authorities as soon as possible. We will dispatch personnel to temporarily replace martial arts teachers until a suitable teacher is found. Second, the college entrance examination will be linked to martial arts. This year, the exam is imminent, so it will not be required. However, starting next year, the college entrance examination will be linked to martial arts, accounting for 30% of the score. The specific subjects covered in martial arts will be determined later. All candidates are requested to prepare accordingly. Third, establish a martial arts fund. From primary school to university, all schools will establish martial arts funds, and students who excel in martial arts will receive scholarships. I hope that students in all universities will strive for excellence and achieve outstanding results in martial arts. The king paused for a moment, waiting for everyone to digest the key points, before continuing his speech. The above 3 points concern students currently in school. Next, I will address matters related to martial arts in society. Let's start directly with the 4th point. Fourth, every bustling metropolis must construct martial arts training grounds and facilities, and regularly host martial arts competitions with generous prize money. We hope everyone will actively participate in these activities, and martial arts masters are encouraged to open martial arts schools and teach martial arts. Even ordinary towns will have basic training equipment. 5th, increase the prize money for the world's #1 martial arts tournament. Starting with the next world's #1 martial arts tournament, the champion's prize will increase tenfold. And not only the champion will receive a prize, but the runner-up and third-place winners will also receive substantial rewards. In other words, those who achieve a top 3 finish in the world's #1 martial arts tournament will receive a huge prize. We hope everyone will spread this word, and all martial arts masters, please look forward to the next world's #1 martial arts tournament. After recounting these 5 plans regarding martial arts, the king paused for a moment before continuing. These are the 5 points regarding changes to global martial arts. I hope everyone will pay close attention. That's all for today. Goodbye. The king, holding his manuscript, stood up and walked to the side. Immediately, a professional television crew member came over to explain the details of the 5-point martial arts plan, supplementing the king's words. After a while, a lean, wiry man with gleaming eyes sat down beside him, seemingly a martial arts master. While the presenter explained the martial arts plan, he frequently asked the lean man questions, and the lean man provided supplementary information as needed. The two continued to supplement the king's plan, explaining for a long time. Raul tried changing the channel. Even other channels without presenters displayed a line of small print at the bottom, which, of course, concerned the king's remarks about martial arts. Although it was evening, the outside world was already in an uproar. This plan appeared too suddenly, without any warning, instantly igniting the hearts of many people. Well, I didn't expect the king to actually do something. Raul smiled slightly after reading the king's announcement. Luo had been planning to talk to the king again after finishing his training in the gravity chamber. After all, he had promised the gods, and he couldn't break his word. If this king wasn't doing his job, he'd replace him with a capable one. But today's speech showed him the king's attitude. He was quite efficient, getting things done so quickly. Luo had only thought of 2 of the king's points, the one about the martial arts tournament and the college entrance exam. He hadn't expected the king to have considered so many things. It seemed he had discussed it with his advisors. With these 5 points, Luo could foresee a significant, positive change in martial arts on Earth. Martial arts would gain the attention of everyone on Earth. Especially for students, neglecting martial arts might even lead to failing the college entrance exam. Those who were intelligent but physically weak would be in serious trouble. It might seem unfair to them, but what in this world is truly fair? They are naturally smarter than others, easily understanding concepts others can't. Isn't that unfair to those who are less intelligent and always a step behind? Students with martial arts talent will have an even greater advantage in the college entrance exam. That 30% difference in scores is no small number. It will wipe out thousands of students who fail martial arts. Students on Earth will truly achieve all-round development in morality, intelligence, physical fitness, aesthetics, and labor. It's hard to say about other worlds, but in the Dragon Ball world, martial arts reign supreme. The weak have a fighting power of no more than 10 points, easily dealt with by a small pistol. The strong have fighting power in the thousands, easily destroying mountains. The even stronger, like Frieza, destroying planets is just a matter of a flick of their fingers. Most of the weak don't even know how they died. Earthlings in the Dragon Ball world died countless times in the original story, only to be revived time and again by the Dragon Balls. Without the Dragon Balls, Earth would have long been a dead planet. The strong, like Frieza, roam the universe freely, even buying and selling planets. Even the Galactic Patrol keeps their distance from Frieza's army. Of course, technology is also crucial. From daily life to space travel, technology is indispensable. Otherwise, apart from a very few races capable of surviving in outer space, or those with special techniques that allow them to move between planets, most people would be confined to their own planets until their death. Martial arts and technology must be pursued simultaneously, and both must be excelled. Technology improves people's lives, and space travel requires its support. Isn't Raul's current gravity chamber a product of technology? On the other hand, martial arts also need vigorous development. Technological progress is incredibly difficult and slow, while martial arts progress much faster. For example, Goku, from birth to becoming a Super Saiyan in just over 20 years, transformed from a weakling with a power level of less than 10 into a powerful being capable of destroying planets. Martial arts can achieve a leapfrog development, while technology must always advance step by step and cannot be taken lightly. Sleep, more training tomorrow. Raoul yawned and turned back to his room. Chapter 41: A Moment of Crisis. Earth, West Capital. Dr. Brief's gravity chamber. Two figures clashed rapidly within the gravity chamber, their speed so fast that even the strongest person on Earth could only see a fleeting afterimage. The two collided, unleashing a burst of power that shook even the surrounding buildings. Two powerful impacts followed, shockwaves radiating outwards, causing the gravity chamber, enhanced by Dr. Brief, to tremble. Raoul withdrew his fist, leaped backward to create distance, and looked at Asyana with a smile, praising, "Very good, Asyana, it seems you've adapted to 20 times gravity." Asyana clenched her fist excitedly and nodded, "Yes, finally adapted to 20 times gravity." Asyana sighed somewhat. When she first entered the 20 times gravity training, she felt like a toddler learning to walk, but now she could finally engage in rapid combat as if she were in the outside world. This meant that Asyana had officially adapted to the 20 times gravity training, and only 5 short days had passed. "Very good, it's getting late now, Asyana, you should go back and rest. I'll train a little longer." Raoul nodded. Asyana was already quite tired, the fight had exhausted most of her strength. "Okay." Asyana smiled and nodded, leaving the gravity chamber and closing the door behind her. Outside the door, Asyana bit her lower lip, a hint of resentment on her face. She knew she had reached her limit, but Raoul was barely warming up, it wasn't really training. Every time this happened, even if Raoul didn't mention it, Asyana would find an excuse to leave, leaving the rest of the time for him. "My strength is still too low. It will take a long time to quickly improve my combat power. Just wait, Raoul, I will definitely catch up with you and stand by your side." Asyana was also a person who refused to admit defeat. If Raoul could do it in a day, she couldn't. She would take 2 days, 3 days, and eventually catch up with Raoul. "Well, it's not too late yet, let's train in the wilderness outside for a while, then come back to rest." Asyana was a woman of action. She knew that Raoul still had a long time to train, so she planned to go out and train by herself for a while first. In the gravity chamber, after Asyana left, Raoul began to operate the machine in the gravity chamber, increasing the gravity multiplier 20 times. The training effect is already very low. "I already adapted to 30 times the gravity yesterday, so let's start with 50 times. Buzzing. The machine in the gravity chamber began to hum, and soon the gravity rose to 50 times. Boom. Raoul's entire body sank, and his vision went black for a moment, but he quickly adapted, gritted his teeth, and began to train. At first, it was 10 times the gravity, and I increased it gradually. Now, with 20 times the gravity all at once, it's really quite uncomfortable. Training, start training, punch." Raoul slightly bent his knees, assumed a horse stance, and began to punch forward. Under 50 times the gravity, even a normal punch made Raoul sweat profusely. "Ha, ha, ha." Raoul roared, punching and swinging his fists as he sweated profusely in the gravity chamber. Training days were always so monotonous. 2 days later, Raoul had adapted to 50 times gravity, while Asyana was already handling 30 times gravity with ease. "I'm sleepy, Raoul, you continue training. I'm going out now." "Okay, I'll train a little longer." Raoul watched Asyana's departing figure, his mind preoccupied with training. Was Asyana too sleepy today? Why did she leave so early? Oh well. There's still plenty of time to train. I already adapted to 50 times gravity yesterday, 60 times isn't very interesting. How about trying 100 times? Raoul wiped the sweat from his face, intending to experience the machine's highest gravity, 100 times the ultra-high gravity. The gravity chamber's machines hummed with a dull sound, operating for much longer than usual. The air seemed to grow heavy and scorching. Rollo took a deep, tense breath. With a final buzz, the force of 100 times gravity arrived in an instant. Damn it! Rollo's vision went black. Before he could react, he was slammed to the ground by the force of 100 times gravity, making it hard to breathe. His heart pounded rapidly, each beat a struggle. His bones cracked as if they were about to break. Breathing was difficult, the air heavy, and his vision blurred. Rollo knew he had overestimated himself. 100 times gravity was beyond his body's limits. Under 100 times gravity, Rollo couldn't even stand up straight, let alone engage in high-intensity training. Oh no, if this keeps up, I'll faint from the pressure and die in a coma. Raoul gritted his teeth, refusing to close his eyes. He feared that if he did, he would never open them again. Shut it down, shut the machine down. Raoul tried his best to push himself up, then walked to the machine and shut it down. Perhaps Dr. Brief had foreseen this, for there was a large red button next to the gravity control machine. Pressing it would automatically lower the machine to normal Earth gravity. Get up. Raoul gritted his teeth, straining to lift himself up. Slowly, he stood halfway up. Raoul tried to take a step forward, the heavy footsteps echoing in the empty gravity chamber. Thump, thump. Raoul could no longer be called walking, he could only move in tiny, inching movements towards the gravity chamber controller. I'm exhausted. Raoul had been training with Asyana for most of the day and wasn't at his peak. He'd only moved a few steps, almost there, when he stopped and collapsed to the ground with a thud. Just a little bit more. Raoul struggled to lift his head, looking at the control machine right in front of him. Thump, hiss. Raoul had no choice but to grip the ground with his fingers and slowly crawl towards the machine, simultaneously controlling his internal energy, trying to lift himself up like a flying technique. While he couldn't actually fly, it would make his body feel lighter and allow him to crawl faster. Almost there, just a little bit more. Raoul twisted his fingers, strained all his muscles, and mobilized his internal energy. Under 100 times the normal gravity, his energy was rapidly depleting as he struggled to counteract the immense force. Fortunately, at the last second, Raoul successfully crawled to the side of the machine. Raoul gripped the edge of the machine, struggling to his feet. His vision was already blurry. He looked at the most prominent red button, and with his last bit of strength, slammed it down. A buzzing sound filled the air as the red button was pressed, and the gravity chamber began to hum, the gravity steadily decreasing 100, 90, 80, 10, 1. Phew. Raoul let out a long sigh of relief, collapsing to the ground. That was close. I brought this on myself, I almost killed myself. Raoul was still shaken. He rested for a while, then went to a corner and retrieved a specially made jar. This jar was custom made by the shopkeeper, and now he had it in his hands. Inside were precious senzu beans. Raoul unscrewed the jar and ate one. Crunch, crunch, gulp. Raoul chewed twice and swallowed. The senzu bean transformed into streams of healing energy, flowing throughout his body, healing the bones, muscles, and blood vessels that had been ruptured by the 100-fold gravity. Alright, I'm alive again, ha ha ha, all thanks to the senzu beans. I can't be so stupid anymore. I can't move at 100 times gravity, so let's start with 70 times gravity. Ha. Great, it feels oppressive, but not so much that I can't even stand up. That's the feeling. In the gravity chamber, Raoul continued his arduous training. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 4299-000 Combat Power. 1 week later. Whoosh! A black phantom moved and danced within the gravity chamber, its speed almost like teleportation. The distorted space and oppressive air indicated that the gravity within the chamber was at an absolutely terrifying level. Thump! Raoul landed on the ground, his eyes gleaming with a terrifying light. A powerful aura, unleashed without reservation due to his training, was overwhelming and extraordinary. Come on. Raoul's eyes flashed, and he condensed a powerful energy wave in his right hand, illuminating the entire gravity chamber with a bright blue-white light. Go. Raoul pushed forward with his right hand, and the energy wave, imbued with immense power, shot forward like a rocket. The energy wave struck a wall in front of him, and just as it was about to crash into it and cause a massive explosion, it suddenly changed direction, circling around and heading towards Raoul's back. Raoul took a deep breath, gathered his inner energy, strengthened his body, turned around, and actually caught this terrifying attack with his chest. With a deafening roar, smoke and dust billowed everywhere, and a massive shockwave erupted from the point where Luo collided with the energy blast, radiating outwards in all directions. The gravity chamber teetered on the brink of collapse, cracks appearing in parts of the walls, and even the central control machine creaked under the strain. As the smoke cleared, Luo stood unharmed, his clothes somewhat worn, but his spirits high and his expression radiant. Alright, I finally adapted to 100 times gravity. Luo laughed heartily, suppressing his excitement, and walked to the gravity chamber's control machine. The display showed 100. Luo manipulated the machine, restoring the gravity to 1 time the normal Earth gravity. A buzzing sound filled the air as the gravity chamber returned to normal. Luo looked at his body in astonishment. Even a casual wave of his hand or a simple step brought him immense ease and comfort. This is so easy. I've been training under 108 times gravity lately, and now it's normal gravity. It's incredibly relaxing. Haha, so easy. Raul tried running quickly in the gravity chamber with a little effort. Even a normal run created a gust of wind. The wind howled as he trained in the gravity chamber, and with a crack, a section of the wall fell off. The control machine also creaked open, revealing the intricate machinery inside. Oh no, I think I got too excited. The exercise was too intense, and I damaged the gravity chamber. Raul wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, feeling a little guilty. Oh well, I'll leave it to Dr. Brief. Let the professionals handle it. Let's see how my combat power is. Raul took out a combat power detector that was lying beside him, put it on, and began to test his combat power. The combat power detector beeped, starting to measure Raul's combat power. Raul carefully watched the changes in the values on the detector screen: 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000, 5000, 10,000, 11,000, 12,000, 21,000, 22,000, 31,000, 32,000, 33,000, 99,800, 99,800. Looking at the final number on the machine, and feeling the abundant energy within his body, Raul couldn't help but smile. A power level of over 99,000, close to 100,000. This meant that Raul had already joined the ranks of the most elite warriors in the universe, belonging to the super elite class. When King Vegeta first ascended the throne, not a single Saiyan had a power level exceeding 10,000. Now, only a very small number of warriors have unknowingly broken through to 10,000. In other words, even if they transformed into great apes, possessing 10 times the strength, they would only be comparable to Raul's current power level. Raul had already experienced the power of the great ape form with Asyana. It was incredibly strong and energetic, but also incredibly stupid and clumsy, like an ordinary wild beast. Raul was confident that he could easily defeat Saiyans in their great ape forms. Frieza, as the emperor who ruled the universe, had gathered super soldiers from across the cosmos, selecting the most elite among them to form the Jinryu force. They were now arguably the strongest warriors after Frieza, and Raul was now on par with them, and apart from Jinryu, the captain of the Jinryu force, he was no less powerful than any of the members. The gravity chamber is incredibly effective, especially for Saiyans. We must build more gravity chambers in the future. I've already adapted to 100 times the gravity. Next time I'll ask Dr. Brief if he can build even higher gravity chambers. Raul smiled. He had already achieved most of his purpose in coming to Earth, so how could he not be happy? The training effects of the gravity chamber had already impressed him, and he believed that equipping the Saiyans with gravity chambers would create a large number of super soldiers. The Saiyans truly deserve the title of the strongest fighting race in the universe. Even Raul, who knows the pinnacle of fighting power in this universe, feels somewhat helpless and speechless at the current title of strongest. Whether it's Frieza's elite army or the combat-type Namekians, they are all far stronger than the vast majority of Saiyans. Being the strongest without matching strength only invites ridicule. In the evening, at the dinner table, Raul and Asyana, who were eating, saw Dr. Brief approaching. Raul, embarrassed, asked, "How is it, doctor? How is the gravity chamber?" Dr. Brief sat down, ate a couple of bites of fruit, and said helplessly, "Oh dear, you've gone too far. You've ruined the gravity chamber. It's no good now. If we use it any longer, it might explode." Then. "Doctor, how long will it take to repair?" Raul asked in surprise. He had already adapted to 100 times gravity, but Asyana hadn't yet. Asyana is currently training diligently under 50 times gravity, preparing to break through to the next level. "Yes, doctor, can the gravity chamber still be repaired?" Asyana asked nervously. How could she not be nervous? After recent training in the gravity chamber, her strength had broken through again, reaching a combat power of 32,000. She had never dared to dream of such power before. Now she was the strongest Saiyan besides Raul. Asyana rolled her eyes at Raul, scolding him sweetly. "Raul, can't you be more careful? The gravity chamber is very precious." My fault, I was wrong." Raul could only apologize foolishly. HMPH, Asyana snorted, looking at Dr. Brief. Don't worry, it can be repaired. It won't take 10 days or half a month. I estimate it will be usable again in about 7 days, Dr. Briefs said slowly, eating fruit. That's great. Raul breathed a sigh of relief. Great. Asyana shouted with delight. The gravity chamber training had brought her so many surprises. But be more careful next time, Raul. Dr. Brief glanced at Raul. Raul nodded obediently and quickly said, of course, I will be more careful. That's good. Dr. Brief nodded. By the way, I've seen you've been training so hard lately that I haven't had a chance to rest. Now that you're resting, I'll give you this. Dr. Brief took out a palm-sized, round object that looked like a stopwatch from his pocket. The stopwatch display had crisscrossing lines on it. Chapter 43 Searching for the Dragon Balls. Dragon Ball Radar. Roel excitedly took the Dragon Ball radar from the professor. Perhaps it was because they were father and daughter, but the Dragon Ball radars made by Dr. Brief and his daughter Bulma looked similar. Yes, Dr. Brief nodded, handing it over. With this machine, you can quickly find the Dragon Balls. It's yours now. Thank you. Roel accepted the Dragon Ball radar from Dr. Brief. Asyana was used to Roel's mysterious nature, but judging from his demeanor, the Dragon Balls might be something extraordinary. Since it was late and not convenient to search for the Dragon Balls at night, Roel and Asyana quickly ate dinner, washed up, and went to bed. Nothing happened at night. The next morning, Roel and Asyana dressed neatly, carrying the Dragon Ball radar, ready to search for the Dragon Balls. Ding. He pressed the switch on the Dragon Ball radar, which displayed 2 small dots, both very close to them. Huh, 2? Roel looked at the display with a puzzled expression. There were 2 dots, representing 2 Dragon Balls. One is the 4-star Dragon Ball on Roar's body, and judging by the distance, the other one should be at Dr. Brief's house. Right, Bulma started her Dragon Ball search because she found one in his warehouse. Roar suddenly realized, quickly understood, and turned back to Dr. Brief's house. Roar, why are you going back again? Asyana looked at Roar, who was about to leave, with a puzzled expression, and turned to rush back to Dr. Brief's house. There's a Dragon Ball here too. Roar simply said, and following the direction of the Dragon Ball radar, he arrived at Dr. Brief's warehouse. Looking at the mountain of warehouse, Roar began to rummage through the drawers and cabinets. After searching for a while, he found a Dragon Ball. A 2-star Dragon Ball. Roar smiled as he looked at the Dragon Ball with 2 stars inside. He didn't expect the first Dragon Ball to be found so easily. Roar took out the 4-star Dragon Ball and compared them. When the 2 Dragon Balls were close together, a subtle change occurred, and they began to shimmer faintly in the dark warehouse. The 2 Dragon Balls twinkled magically, and Asyana stared at them curiously, observing these wondrous objects. Alright, we have the 2 Dragon Balls. Let's continue our search. With that, Raul put the Dragon Balls into a sturdy cloth bag, flew into the air, and continuously pressed the Dragon Ball radar, searching for their location. The Dragon Ball radar locates other Dragon Balls by detecting the special electromagnetic waves emitted by them. The display screen on the Dragon Ball radar can be adjusted to show both 2D and 3D views. In 2D, the scale of the electronic map can be adjusted to determine the distance to the next Dragon Ball, allowing for quick relocation. In 3D, once the location is reached, the exact position and altitude of the Dragon Ball can be pinpointed. Dragon Balls aren't necessarily on land, they might be in a bird's nest on a cliff, in a stream, or even deep in the ocean. Therefore, only by using these 2 search methods with the Dragon Ball radar could the location of the Dragon Balls be finally determined. It's easier said than done. On this planet, very few people can build Dragon Ball radars. Raul only knows Dr. Brief's family, so he had to ask Dr. Brief to build the radar. Ding, ding. After repeatedly pressing the radar button, Raul finally pinpointed the location of the next Dragon Ball. Looking at the dot on the radar, Raul said, "There's a Dragon Ball about 300 kilometers to the southeast." Okay, Asyana nodded. The 2 hovered in the air, then transformed into 2 streaks of light and disappeared from West City, heading towards the location locked by the Dragon Ball radar. This was a desolate wilderness with jagged rocks, rarely visited by humans, inhabited by many ferocious beasts that even humans feared, and even dinosaurs. Roar. Raul and Asyana looked down towards the sound and saw a Tyrannosaurus Rex fighting a Triceratops. Dinosaur battle, interesting. Raul only watched for a short while before losing interest. They had already reached the location indicated by the Dragon Ball radar. Ling. Roll pressed the Dragon Ball radar, switching to the 3D map and starting to track the Dragon Balls. Found it. Whoosh. Roll vanished in Asuna's eyes like a phantom. Seeing Roll's incredible speed, Asuna sighed inwardly. Roll has become the strongest Saiyan. This speed is much faster than mine. Following her sense of ki, Asuna quickly found Roll, who was currently standing beside a cliff, searching for the Dragon Balls. Found it. Roll faced the light and saw a flash of light. Flying over, he saw an unknown bird that had treasured the glittering Dragon Ball in its nest. The third Dragon Ball. Let's continue. Roll happily put the Dragon Ball back into his bag, took out the Dragon Ball radar, pressed the button, and started searching for the next Dragon Ball. Asyana, let's go. The next Dragon Ball is to the northwest, about 900 kilometers from here, Raoul said as he saw Asuna approaching. He then transformed into a beam of light and flew off into the distance, Asuna following closely behind. In a remote, sparsely populated village, Raoul found the fourth Dragon Ball inside a well. Wow, look! Someone fell into the well. No, I saw them fly down. Nonsense, how can people fly? The villagers, usually very leisurely except during the busy farming season, quickly gathered around, buzzing with discussion upon seeing strangers. Raoul put away the fourth Dragon Ball, flew into the air to reunite with Asuna, and took the Dragon Ball radar from her. He couldn't carry the equipment while submerged in the water. Raoul glanced casually at the villagers. They were simply dressed, and the surrounding houses were all mud brick and tile structures, seemingly without electricity. Shaking his head slightly, Law looked at the shimmering Dragon Balls in his bag. 4 Dragon Balls had already gathered, and their light was growing stronger. At this rate, we should be nearing Master Roshi soon. Law remembered that in the original story, Goku and Bulma found the 3-star ball at Master Roshi's place, and Bulma had even sacrificed her charms to get it. Master Roshi had a good look, because during the brief moment Goku and Bulma were together, the clueless Goku had pulled down Bulma's underwear. So when Bulma lifted her skirt, Master Roshi saw, well, an indescribable scene. Ling. Lot pressed the Dragon radar again, searching for the next Dragon Ball. Found it. It's a bit far, over 1,000 kilometers. Asuna, let's go. Okay. Law and Asuna transformed into 2 streaks of light and flew towards the horizon, leaving behind a group of astonished villagers. My god, they can fly. They've flown away. God? They must be gods. Chapter 44 Master Roshi. Raul soared into the sky, using his flying technique to fly at incredible speed, carrying Asuna swiftly towards the location of the next Dragon Ball. With the help of the Dragon Ball radar, Raul no longer needed to run around aimlessly, increasing their search efficiency by thousands of times. Raul and Asuna quickly found the 5th Dragon Ball in a primeval forest. While searching for the next Dragon Ball, something unusual happened. Hey, don't go any further. There's the Ox King up there. Raul and Asuna were walking along a path, following the Dragon Ball radar's directions. The Dragon Ball was not far ahead. They were warned by a farmer pushing a cart. Oh, the Ox King? Raul was startled, realizing they had unknowingly entered the Ox King's territory. Yes, that Ox King is incredibly strong, guarding his treasure and not letting anyone near. Anyone of unknown origin who approaches the castle will be killed by him. Let's go, let's go. I dare not stay here. The farmer warned Raul and Asuna, then left, seemingly terrified of the Ox King. The Bull Demon King? Asyana asked doubtfully, is he also a king? Is he very powerful? Raul smiled and shook his head. It's alright, let's continue our search. Oh. Asyana was just curious, she didn't believe anyone on Earth could rival the two of them now. In the distance, they saw the large castle beside the mountain. The flaming mountain was currently untouched by fire, and Raul only felt a refreshing coolness as he walked. It's inside the castle. Raul glanced at the Dragon Ball radar and walked into the castle, which the surrounding residents considered a den of demons, without a second thought. As soon as the castle doors opened, a tall, imposing man wearing a horned helmet and wielding a large axe charged forward. What are you doing? How dare you trespass into the Bull Demon King's castle? Are you trying to steal my money? Die? The Bull Demon King, axe in hand, charged menacingly. Raul and Asyana remained calm. Asyana, watching the slowly charging Bull Demon King, asked, what should we do? Raul, should we kill him? No need, Raul waved his hand casually. We've come uninvited, after all. This is his castle. Just knock him out. Okay, Asyana nodded. The Bull Demon King rushed over, watching the man and woman discussing something. Suddenly, the beautiful woman seemed to vanish. When he realized what had happened, a sharp pain shot through his head, and he collapsed to the ground. In the instant he lost consciousness, the Bull Demon King saw the beautiful girl standing behind him, staring at him expressionlessly. Thump. The massive Bull Demon King fell to the ground. Raul and Asyana, unconcerned, walked into the castle. In a warehouse filled with golden jewels, Raul found the 6th Dragon Ball. Found it. It's the 7-star Dragon Ball. Raul happily stuffed the Dragon Ball into his bag, which was now bulging. Only the last Dragon Ball was missing. Wow, so much treasure. No wonder the Bull Demon King guards his treasure so carefully, he's practically richer than a kingdom. Raul sighed, looking at the surrounding treasure. Let's go find the last Dragon Ball. Okay. 2 streaks of light vanished from the Bull Demon King's castle, while the Bull Demon King lay fast asleep at the castle gate. Raul and Asyana schemed across the vast ocean, flying at breakneck speed, their speed creating a tidal wave. Taking out the Dragon Ball radar, Raul confirmed once again that the Dragon Ball was on the small island before them. It was a very small island, only a little over 100 square meters, with only one house and a few lonely coconut trees nearby. At that moment, Master Roshi was comfortably reclining on a deck chair, wearing sunglasses, basking in the sun, flipping through a yellow magazine. While reading the magazine, Master Roshi was thinking about the events of not long ago. Oh dear, I never expected the gods to summon me and that wretched old man Crane, and even order us to reopen our martial arts school and recruit disciples. But, it's been such a long time since I've recruited disciples. Suddenly having to do it again feels a bit strange. But the gods said it's for the rise of martial arts on Earth, so I can't just stand by and do nothing. I never thought that after all these years, with my old bones and limbs, I'd still have to recruit disciples. What should I do? I don't like too much noise. Maybe I should recruit fewer disciples? I wonder how Gohan and Ox King are doing? Master Roshi put down his magazine, stretched, and suddenly a strong gust of wind swept in, accompanied by a massive, surging wave. Ah, no way, a tsunami. Master Roshi stood up, preparing to gather his energy to break the tsunami. If such a massive tsunami hit his island, all the houses he had painstakingly built would be destroyed. Wait, someone. Master Roshi exclaimed in surprise as the tsunami drew closer to his island, shrinking until it disappeared completely. 2 figures descended from the sky and stood before him. Flying technique? Master Roshi carefully observed the 2 figures before him, a man and a woman, both quite attractive, the woman especially beautiful, with her curvaceous figure. No, both of them possessed an aura that made it hard to breathe. Found it, over there. Raul immediately spotted the Dragon Ball around Master Roshi's neck. Hello, we are looking for something. Raul curiously observed the old man. This must be Master Roshi. Hello, what are you looking for? Master Roshi asked, puzzled. He was curious when martial artists stronger than him and that old man, Churu, had appeared on Earth. And they were so young. It's the crystal ball around your neck, Raul said directly, pointing to the Dragon Ball around Master Roshi's neck. This? Master Roshi shook the Dragon Ball, then shook his head. No, this might be very valuable. I finally found it at the bottom of the sea. No, I can't give it to you. What should we do, Raul? Should we just rob it? Asyana frowned, her tone icy. She felt this lecherous old man had been staring at her from the beginning. It was disgusting, and she really wanted to slap him to death. No, let me handle this. Raul stopped Asyana. Master Roshi broke out in a cold sweat. When Asyana was staring at him, he felt a powerful pressure he had never felt before. This chilling killing intent was terrifying. Only after Raul stopped Asyana did Master Roshi breathe a sigh of relief. He looked at the young man's friendly gaze with suspicion. Had he seen me before? We won't rob you. I like equal exchange the most. I'll trade you something. Raul walked over with a smile, took out a capsule of origin, and threw it out. After a puff of smoke, a large quantity of trendy men's clothing and food appeared on the island. Master Roshi's eyes lit up at the sight of the pile. He was living a secluded life here. And everything was fine, easy and comfortable, except for one thing, he couldn't earn any money. He was currently spending all the money he had earned before, so he had to be very careful with his spending. The sheer amount of stuff before him overwhelmed him. Seeing Master Roshi's hesitant expression, Law walked over, pointed to a pair of magazines and comics in the corner, and whispered a few words in Master Roshi's ear. Master Roshi's eyes lit up, and he blurted out in surprise, "Really? So big, so white? Ahem, good lad, I find you pleasing to the eye, we're destined to meet. This crystal ball is useless to me, so I'll give it to you." "Thank you, Master Roshi," Law said with a smile, taking the last Dragon Ball from Master Roshi and placing it in his bag. Asyana looked at the gleeful Raoul with suspicion, and asked suspiciously, "Raoul, what did you give this lecherous old man? Why is he so happy? And what's so big and white?" Raoul froze, then smiled awkwardly, Nothing, just some food and drinks, and some magazines. Let's go, let's go." Raoul quickly took to the air and flew away into the distance. Asyana, seeing that Raoul didn't elaborate, didn't press him and left with him. Master Roshi waited until Raoul and the other person left, then immediately pulled out a magazine and began to admire it. Amazing, so powerful, so white. My god, it's so big. Wait a minute, I don't think I mentioned my name earlier. How did that young man know? That's strange. Chapter 45 Return. On a desolate island on Earth, Raoul pulled 7 Dragon Balls from his bag and laid them on the ground. The 7 Dragon Balls gathered together, shimmering with a brilliant light, twinkling and sparkling. Anyone who saw them would know they were treasures. "Raoul, can these Dragon Balls really summon Shenron?" Asyana looked at the Dragon Balls on the ground in surprise. The shimmering crystal balls were quite appealing to the girl. "Yes." Raoul nodded, took out a prepared slip of paper from his pocket, and handed it to Asyana. "Here, this is the incantation to activate the Dragon Balls and summon Shenron. Remember this, it's the hope for saving the Saiyans. You absolutely must keep these safe." Asyana looked at Raoul's solemn expression, nodded seriously, and carefully put away the slip of paper and the Dragon Balls. "All right, I'll go back now." Raoul nodded and took out a remote control from his pocket. He gently pressed the button, and then waited quietly for a moment. In a distant place, at a farmhouse, a white spherical flying vehicle, towed there, slowly ascended, having received a summons, and sped towards Raoul's location. The flying vehicle moved quickly. In the blink of an eye, Raoul saw it arrive before him. Raoul looked at the flying vehicle before him, opened the hatch, and before leaving, glanced at Asyana's figure, repeatedly instructing her, "I'm going back. Stay here and take good care of yourself. We'll communicate through the new type of detector. Remember to keep the detector on you 24 hours a day." "Understood, don't worry," Asyana said, immediately taking out the detector modified by Dr. Brief and putting it on her head. Although Roar and her detector had been shattered to pieces when Asyana transformed into a giant ape, Roar had brought a large number of detectors with him. Their quantity was still plentiful. "Very good, then I'm relieved." Roar smiled and nodded, stepping into the flying vehicle. Asyana watched with a complex expression as the spacecraft slowly hovered, then soared into the sky, its speed increasing until it broke through the atmosphere and disappeared from sight. Only then did she turn her gaze away. "Roar's going to save us Saiyans. I wonder what our fate will be this time? How many of our comrades will survive? Even Roar says it's impossible for all Saiyans to live. Sigh. Time to train." Asyana stood there gazing at the sky for a while, then slowly ascended, leaving with the Dragon Balls. The spacecraft broke through Earth's atmosphere, and Roar, in outer space, saw the dazzling, beautiful planet, its azure surface appearing and disappearing like a blue gem in the universe. However, in Roar's eyes, Earth was not only beautiful but also extremely dangerous. Earth was far too weak, it lacked any truly powerful beings in the universe, its combat strength was low, and its technology was equally backward. Frieza's army could easily conquer Earth with a mere soldier. However, every cloud has a silver lining. Perhaps it's because Earth lacks noteworthy topics that it has been overlooked by powerful civilizations in the universe. But if they knew that Earth possessed the Dragon Balls that grant wishes and the senzu beans that bring healing, Earth wouldn't be in its current peaceful state. But these aren't my concerns right now. After all, the Saiyans are in far greater danger. As the spacecraft accelerated, the massive planet Earth became an invisible dot. Raoul closed his eyes and entered a dormant state. Planet Vegeta. HMPH, what's going on? They keep preventing us Saiyans from leaving. I'm going crazy. Bardock hasn't returned either. Ugh. I'm going insane. It's so boring here. A long-legged, beautiful Saiyan paced back and forth in her home, her stunning face showing impatience. Roy's eyes suddenly lit up as she thought of something. That's right, my sister's team seems to still be fighting outside, very close to Planet Vegeta, and they're almost done with their mission. I'll sneak over there and come back with their team, pretending to be returning from a mission. I'm such a genius. Roy's lips curled into a mischievous smile as she awaited the night. That night, after everyone had fallen asleep, Roy went alone to the spaceport and stole a spherical spacecraft. My sister mentioned it a while ago. Which planet? I remember, Planet Kana. Alright, all set up, take off. As the spherical spacecraft took off, breaking through Planet Vegeta's atmosphere, the giant flying saucer-like spaceship hovering outside sounded an alarm. Frieza's ship constantly monitored Planet Vegeta, not allowing any Saiyans to appear outside of the planet, and issuing warnings whenever a Saiyan's power level exceeded 100. On Planet Vegeta, every Saiyan boy has a power level exceeding 100, so unless they are infants, no Saiyan boy, let alone an adult, could escape. Infants can't fly, so Frieza assumed it would be foolproof. Frieza arrived at the control room in his personal flying vehicle, looked at the busy soldiers, and asked coldly, "What's going on? Why is there an alarm?" "Lord Frieza." The busy soldiers, seeing their king arrive, immediately saluted respectfully. "Lord Frieza, we've discovered a spacecraft that has emerged from Planet Vegeta." Frieza frowned, his voice low. "Those Saiyan monkeys are ignoring my orders. What's their power level, and where are they headed?" A soldier quickly pressed buttons to check information. Reporting, "Your Majesty, it's a female Saiyan, power level 3200. However, her journey wasn't backed up at the spaceport, she must have set her own destination. Therefore, we don't know where she's going." Frieza suddenly smiled, a cold smile. He looked at the spacecraft with a sly grin. "Oh, power level 3200, quite high. Go, arrange a team of warriors with power levels above 3000 to follow her and see what she's up to. Once she reaches her destination and we find out what she's doing, kill her." Frieza said calmly, but his eyes held a hint of murderous intent. This kind of trash with a power level of only 3200 wasn't worth his attention. A simple team could easily wipe her out. "Yes, Your Majesty," the soldier replied immediately, and began to notify a 5-man squad. Each member of the squad had a combat power exceeding 3000, with the captain's base combat power exceeding 6000. That Saiyan who dared to disobey Frieza's orders had absolutely no chance of survival. HMPH, Saiyan. Frieza glanced contemptuously at the spaceship rapidly heading into the distance, no longer caring about the dying man. Frieza gazed at Planet Vegeta in the distance. He couldn't wait to wipe out all the Saiyans. This guy who escaped from Planet Vegeta would be his appetizer. Chapter 46 Planet Kana. Planet Kana. The Buteo squad is still carrying out orders to eliminate the threats on this planet so they can sell it later for a hefty profit. This is a planet teeming with ferocious monsters. Monsters with a power level exceeding 1000 are commonplace. However, 10 years later, the Buteo squad is considered elite among the Saiyan teams, and they are nearing the completion of their mission. "Captain, are we alright? Didn't we already issue a summons?" the chubby Kalda asked, casually throwing an energy ball that killed a half-dead winged monster on the ground. "It's alright." Buteo's skin was slightly darker, and his body was stronger than it had been 10 years ago. "We've already eliminated 99% of the monsters on Planet Kana, and we're almost done with the mission. If we delay a little longer, it'll only be a few days. I don't believe the Saiyans on Planet Vegeta can all be gathered. We can go back then, it'll be the same. Yet, I don't know what's gotten into Frieza. We're almost done with the mission, and he's telling us to abandon it and go back immediately." The lean Ulchi shook his head, completely bewildered. "Exactly, in my opinion, Frieza is just playing us." The taller, more spirited Celia said disdainfully. "Enough." Captain Buteo frowned. "If anyone hears this, you're all finished." I was just venting." Ulchi smiled and shut his mouth. HMPH. Celia said nothing more and continued with the cleanup mission. The combat power detector suddenly sounded an alarm, and Buteo immediately warned, "Everyone be careful. A high-energy creature is rapidly approaching us, with a combat power of 3200. Kalda and Urki were startled, their expressions turning panicked. Neither of them had exceeded 3,000 yet, and now a monster with that power was charging towards them. They had been fighting on the planet for months without encountering a monster with a combat power exceeding 2,000. They hadn't expected such a powerful monster to suddenly appear just as they were about to leave. However, they breathed a sigh of relief when they saw their captain. Their captain's combat power was currently a whopping 4,500, even if this monster came, it would only be a death sentence. Watch out, it's coming. Celia warned gravely. She was currently the second highest combat power member in the team, with a combat power of 3,500. Her combat power was only 300 points lower than this unknown creature's. If the two of them met one-on-one, the outcome was uncertain. It's here. Buteo roared, unleashing a powerful aura as a small dot in the distance rapidly magnified before him. Celia took flight, her delicate brows furrowed as she gazed at the approaching figure. The more she looked, the more familiar it seemed. She quickly realized who it was, slapped her forehead, and shouted, "Captain, stop." "Why?" Captain Buteo asked in a low voice, still brimming with powerful energy, ready to strike at any moment. "That's a Saiyan too, and it's very likely someone I know." Celia sighed. She had a rough idea of who it was. A Saiyan? Ulchi, who had been on high alert, was stunned. Wasn't this planet supposed to be our team's responsibility? How come there's someone here? No one answered him, for the figure had already reached them. Celia, looking at the beautiful girl before her, was exasperated. She snapped, "Roy, leaving Planet Vegeta should be forbidden. Why did you come here? Are you out of your mind?" Celia looked at Roy with a hint of helplessness. Roy wasn't her biological sister. But Roy's parents and her father had been in the same team. Roy's parents had died in battle long ago, and Roy, being young and unable to survive on her own, had lived with Celia. They had grown up together, training together, though Celia was older and had always taken care of her younger sister. However, while her sister was good in every way, her exceptional talent often made her disobedient, a typical problem girl. Roy raised her head and snorted, "I was so bored on Planet Vegeta. There was no one to talk to. I might as well come out and fight with you guys." For Saiyans, fighting was a daily pastime. "Nonsense." Celia snapped. "King Frieza has issued a summons. There's no way the Saiyans from Planet Vegeta will appear on another planet. You must have sneaked out. If you're discovered, not only will King Frieza not forgive you, but King Vegeta will punish you even more severely." Roy stuck out her tongue and grinned, "It's alright, I sneaked out, no one will know." "You." Celia sighed helplessly. Roy's talent was too high, causing her to often disobey and do whatever came to mind. "Your name is Roy?" Buteo frowned, looking at the beautiful young woman. "Yes, so what?" Roy replied casually. She was very warm towards her older sister, but she didn't care much for others and generally didn't bother answering their questions. "I've heard of you, you're a genius. But you've been too reckless this time. Our mission is almost complete, come back with us later." Buteo nodded, instructing her. Buteo's brow relaxed. It was her. He'd heard of Roy before. She was Celia's often mentioned younger sister, quite famous among the Saiyans, almost reaching the upper-class Saiyan level at birth. "Whatever, I'm here to fight anyway," Roy said casually, glancing at the burly Saiyan before turning to Celia. "Sister, is this the kind of ugly guy you're fighting? Where are the others? Leave them to me." Celia sighed, "Just follow us for a bit, don't wander off. We'll take you back with us after we finish the mission." Alright, I know," Roy waved, smiling nonchalantly. Calda and Ulchi exchanged glances, surprised that someone so powerful had made them so nervous, a girl even younger than them. "Let's go, that forest should be the last one," Buteo said, activating his power detector to search for the final monster. "By the way, be careful with your strength during the battle. If the land is too badly damaged, it won't fetch a good price." Buteo had a lot of confidence in his battle-hardened warriors, but this new girl didn't seem like an obedient and sensible Saiyan. "Anything else?" "Leave it all to me, you guys rest over there," Roy said excitedly, heading towards the location indicated by the probe. "Let's go." Buteo frowned slightly. This girl really didn't listen to orders. A moment later, they arrived at the location of the last group of monsters and eliminated the last group of dangerous monsters on the planet. "Haha, no problem, sister, let me tell you." Loi excitedly pulled her sister, saying that she was right to come here. She was so bored on Planet Vegeta. Buteo looked at the excited Loi and the helpless Celia and couldn't help but nod. Although Loi was disobedient, she was indeed a genius. Her on-the-spot reaction in the battle just now was very quick. She was practically a veteran. With a little training, they can become the best Saiyan warriors, Buteo thought to himself, sitting down to rest on a large rock. Beep beep, just as they were resting after their battle. The detector sounded its alarm again. The 5 people present stared incredulously at the warning numbers on the detector, then abruptly stood up. Chapter 47 The Panicked Saiyan. Combat power 3220, 3300, 3600, 3900, and a combat power of 6000. The group on Planet Kana was stunned by the numbers on the probe. Wasn't Planet Kana supposed to be their Buteo team mission? How come there was this rule-breaking Roy, and now a whole group of people? Buteo, looking at the probe's numbers, felt a pang of panic. He immediately became serious and asked Roy, besides you, is anyone else here? Roy was also stunned. He had clearly come alone, so how could there be a group of people behind him? He shook his head and said, no, I came alone, secretly. Nobody knows. So, you don't know who they are? Buteo frowned, sensing something strange. Yes. Roy nodded firmly. Captain, what do we do? Celia rushed to her captain's side, asking anxiously. The 2 beside him, Calda and Urki, were even more flustered, looking at the probe's numbers. Each one's combat power was stronger than theirs. Don't worry, we don't know why these people came. We're in the Diamond Jungle now, so we won't go out to meet them, we'll just hide here. Buteo, though deeply worried, reassured his team. However, the worst-case scenario is that they also have probes. If they deliberately brought probes to find us, it's definitely not a good thing. Yes, why would anyone come to Planet Kana at this time? We're almost finished with our mission, there's no point in them coming to help us. Celia's expression was grave, filled with worry. The group remained rooted to the spot, uneasy. If they weren't wearing probes, the environment here would be perfect for hiding. If they were wearing probes, there was no need for them to run, as they would be detected no matter where they went. Roy stood nervously beside Celia. Seeing Roy's expression, Celia patted her shoulder reassuringly, her voice gentle. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Roy nodded, gazing anxiously into the distance. In just a moment, based on the data from the probes, they knew that this group of people of unknown origin had come prepared. Damn it, they're fast, and they're heading straight for us. Get ready, they're coming. Buteo roared, standing at the forefront of the group. Everyone else, except for Roy, immediately positioned themselves to Buteo's left and right, ready for battle. Impossible. I snuck here, why are they following me? What are they trying to do? Roy stood nervously beside Celia. Each of these people of unknown origin possessed a fighting power higher than his, not to mention the strongest among them had a fighting power of 6,000. They're here. Buteo said in a low voice. Even without Buteo's warning, they could already see the white streaks flying from afar, moving incredibly fast, arriving before them in the blink of an eye. Seeing the group's attire, most of the Saiyans present breathed a sigh of relief, as these 5 were also wearing Frieza's army standard combat uniforms. Buteo breathed a sigh of relief, but he was still somewhat puzzled. He looked at the handsome man with the green hair and emerald skin at the front, whose combat power was as high as 6,000. This man stood at the forefront, hovering in the air, looking down at them. Buteo spoke, "My fellow subordinates of King Frieza, what are you doing here? We haven't received any notification of reinforcements." "Yes, and we're almost finished with our mission, we don't need reinforcements," Celia added. "Ha ha ha. Companions, did you hear that? Yeah, a bunch of people who are about to die. Don't they know their place? They don't even know why they're dying, what a bunch of trash." Die? Buteo's team, including Roy, were shocked, a sense of fear rising in their hearts. This group not only came with ill intentions, but judging from their mocking laughter, they were there to kill them. The emerald green-haired alien looked down at the group of Saiyans. He looked at the youngest and most beautiful Saiyan and spoke, his voice somewhat effeminate. "You're Roy?" Hearing his name called, Roy stood up straight. "Yes, I'm Roy. What are you doing here? I'm asking you a question." "Don't be nosy," the emerald green-haired alien said calmly. "You fled Planet Vegeta on your own to find these Saiyans. So what if I did? I didn't run away and immediately went back with him. What's it to you? Roy retorted sweetly. Alright, I understand, the emerald green-haired man nodded. He looked down at the Saiyans indifferently and said calmly, King Frieza has ordered that once Roy is found, Roy, and all of you Saiyans who haven't returned to Planet Vegeta, be executed. What? Confusion, shock, fear. All the Saiyans present were stunned, not understanding what he meant, why King Frieza had ordered their execution. What do you mean? This is no joke. Why does King Frieza want to execute us? Buteo took a step forward, suppressing his anger as he asked, simultaneously gesturing to Celia behind his back. Celia understood immediately and pressed a special button on the detector to request help. Pressing the special button would send a signal to the surrounding space, and any Saiyan nearby or passing by would receive the distress signal. Yes, we've been diligently carrying out King Frieza's instructions, and now this planet's mission is almost over, Celia shouted angrily. King Frieza, why do you want to kill us? Just because Roy left alone? Yes, if anyone should be punished, it should be King Vegeta punishing me. Why does Frieza want to kill me, and kill them all too? Roy clenched his fists, burning with rage. Haha, Captain, go for it. Kill them. These Saiyans are still trying to struggle. Yet, they think only a few of them are going to die. All the Saiyans are doomed, ha ha ha. The Frieza Legion members in front of Buteo mocked, their evil smiles making Buteo and his men increasingly uneasy and panicked. The man with emerald green hair directly stopped his teammate, revealing a sinister smile, and said softly, Don't rush, we have time anyway. Let's play with them. Captain, they're not worth playing with. A teammate with a lizard head behind him shook his head. Play with them, we must play with them. I'll have a good time playing with these monkeys. The handsome man with emerald green hair smiled wickedly. After hearing this, his teammate fell silent. Their captain treated them well, but he had this bad habit of teasing and playing with his prey before killing them. The handsome man in turquoise smiled and explained, Don't you understand? King Frieza wants to kill all Saiyans, that's why he's so eager to recall you to Planet Vegeta. All of you Saiyans will die. In the distant cosmos, Raoul, in hibernation, was awakened by the alarm of his spherical spacecraft. His eyes were glazed as he looked around, glancing at the data on the spacecraft's display screen, and he let out a soft huh? Strange, why is there a distress signal? Wait, it's so close. The rest of Frieza's army should be holding back, preparing to attack Planet Vegeta. Why are there still people outside sending out distress signals? Could it be Saiyans who haven't returned yet? Anyway, it's close enough, let's go check. Whoosh, the spacecraft turned a corner and sped towards the green planet not far away. Chapter 48 Chaotic Battle. How could this be? We Saiyans have fought for Frieza, and countless people have died. Why would King Frieza want to kill us Saiyans again? Yes, it's impossible. You must be lying. If you want to fight, then fight. Why lie and deceive us? Buteo's team members roared in disbelief. They didn't believe it. It was possible for Frieza to kill a few Saiyans, as he had killed his subordinates more than once or twice. But to say that Frieza was going to kill all of them was something they simply couldn't believe. HMPH, you don't believe me? The handsome man with emerald green hair glanced at them contemptuously and said to the lizard man beside him, Krokshata, you tell them to die knowing why. Yes, Captain. The lizard man flew forward a short distance, looking down at them with disdain. Don't you understand? You're a bunch of idiotic Saiyans. You dare call yourselves the strongest race in the universe? It's laughable. King Frieza has long been dissatisfied with you Saiyans. Each and every one of you is arrogant and conceited, looking down on us, the rest of Frieza's army, without a second thought. You Saiyans are unruly. While you seem to follow King Frieza's orders well, you've done countless things in secret. Furthermore, you often gossip about King Frieza and look down on his army. Do you think King Frieza doesn't know? And of course, there's your Super Saiyan legend. It's utterly audacious, claiming to surpass all geniuses and be the strongest in the universe. Where does that put King Frieza? He spoke eloquently, directly scorning all the Saiyans and shattering any remaining illusions they might have. Ulquiorra couldn't understand and shouted angrily, That's it. Just because of some vague legend, King Frieza, bah, that Frieza, he wants to kill all of us Saiyans? Calder roared back, Why? Why? Why did Frieza make us Saiyans fight to the death? Countless Saiyans died helping Frieza attack planets. And now, Just because of some unknown Saiyan legend and a few words exchanged in private, he wants to wipe us all out. The handsome man with emerald green hair smiled, a cold smile. I'll tell you why. I admit that you Saiyans do have strong individuals, and as time goes by, more and more powerful warriors are approaching 10,000 in strength. King Frieza has been watching you Saiyans for a long time, and he thinks you are a threat, so he wants to eliminate you. You Saiyans may indeed grow stronger in battle, but right now, you're just a bunch of trash. Just obediently accept your death. The handsome man with emerald green hair relished their expressions of sorrow, anger, and panic, feeling a sense of satisfaction. He loved seeing these expressions, which was why he toyed with them before killing his opponents. Alright, now they can go to hell. Kill them, the emerald green-haired man said calmly, pointing at the group of Saiyans. Haha, I've been waiting impatiently for this. Charge. Kill them. Kill. After the emerald green-haired man finished speaking, his men charged towards the Saiyans, while he kept his eyes fixed on their captain. This Saiyan had decent fighting power, 4,500, which his teammates couldn't handle. Kill. Fight your way through. Buteo roared, and the other team members, not to be outdone, rushed forward. Boom. Explosions rang out continuously, energy blasts and ki bullets flew everywhere, and dust billowed across the vast land, the earth trembling from their battle. Buteo listened to the sounds of his teammates fighting. Remaining motionless, his eyes fixed on the green-skinned man with a power level of 6,000. He knew that only he could buy him some time, the others were far too weak and would likely be killed in a few moves. Saiyans were incredibly robust, with tenacious vitality, far stronger than ordinary aliens. Unless their power level differed by an absurd factor like double, they wouldn't be instantly killed. Cough cough. The handsome man with emerald green hair coughed twice, waving his hand to brush away the dust around him. Damn it, fighting is such a hassle, so much dust, it's filthy. Buteo watched the man wave his hand, squinting his eyes, seemingly unconcerned about his surroundings, and thought to himself, my chance has come. Buteo suddenly charged towards the green-skinned man, unleashing a powerful energy blast aimed directly at the green-haired man's face. His attack was a killing blow from the start. Buteo knew his power level was lower than the man's, so he wouldn't let any opportunity slip by. Not good. The handsome green-haired man, waving his hands and dusting himself off, suddenly noticed a wave of energy rushing towards him. You're asking for death? I haven't even made a move yet, and you dare to attack me first. The green-haired man gritted his teeth, gathered his power, and threw a punch, directly colliding with the energy wave. Boom. Buteo's energy wave collided with the green-haired man's fist, but the energy wave was actually deflected, swerving and flying towards the distant ground. A deafening explosion rang out, followed by a powerful gust of wind. The green-haired man rotated his fist, feeling the energy wave he had just received, and grinned maliciously. Not bad, it made my fist a little numb, but you're still going to die. Swoosh. The green-haired man transformed into a phantom and rushed towards Buteo. Buteo knew that his previous attack had no effect and that he would face a counterattack, so he was already prepared to receive the attack from this annoying man. So fast. Buteo's eyes widened, not daring to miss a single movement, his gaze fixed on the green-haired man. Bang! Buteo saw the straight punch hurtling towards his chest, immediately getting into a fighting stance, raising his arm to block the attack. Blocked. Although Buteo reacted quickly and had already seen the attack, the difference in power was too great. With just one powerful straight punch, Buteo was sent flying, crashing into a small hill behind him, creating a large, human-shaped hole. HMPH, he's not going to die like that, is he? The green-haired man flew to the side of the hill, looking at the still unmoved mountain. Whether he's dead or not, I'll give you a little more spice. Sizzle. The green-haired man stretched out his hand, and a blue-white energy condensed in front of him, emitting a crackling sound. In the blink of an eye, an energy ball the size of a human head was formed. Go. The green-haired man revealed a cruel smile and threw the energy ball directly towards the hill. Boom. The moment the energy ball touched the hill, an explosion even more powerful than the previous energy wave occurred, shaking the heavens and the earth. Everything in sight vanished in the white light of the explosion. Small stones propelled by the explosion were annihilated by the terrifying energy before they even hit the ground, turning into a pile of ashes. Cough cough, used too much energy, kicked up some more dust. The green-haired man frowned, covering his mouth and nose. Now, he should be dead. The green-haired man looked triumphantly at the sunken earth before him. The hill had been completely obliterated. Let's go see how they've handled it. The green-haired man chuckled to himself, turning to leave. In the instant he turned away, a figure descended from the sky, kicking the green-haired man in the head, sending him crashing into the ground below, kicking up countless specks of dust. Cough cough, die, you disgusting bastard. Buteo clutched his chest, his body covered in wounds. He had escaped the explosion, but had been caught in the blast. Damn it, I'm really furious. No one has ever managed to hurt me like this before. The green-haired beauty flew into the air, looking quite disheveled, especially with blood streaming down his face. He touched the scar on his forehead, looked at the blood in his hand, and let out a sharp, piercing scream. Bastard, how dare you disfigure my handsome face? I'll kill you. Buteo stared in astonishment at the creature before him, his whole body trembling, his expression contorted in pain. Then, his body suddenly swelled up, his muscles expanding dramatically. His once handsome face transformed into a filthy toad-like shape, his body covered in bumps, utterly hideous. Conversely, his combat power surged dramatically. Buteo looked at the readings on his monitor in horror. 10,500. His combat power exceeded 10,000. A powerful aura erupted from this hideous monster. Even before the monster made a move, Buteo felt an indescribable, terrifying aura, making it hard for him to breathe. It's over, we're all doomed. At that moment, a spherical spaceship descended from the sky and landed on the planet. A young man stepped out of the spaceship, sensing the chaotic energy around him. Over there, powerful energies are all together, so chaotic, it seems like a battle is taking place. Luo'er gazed into the distance, then suddenly soared into the air, rapidly dashing towards the direction he sensed, transforming into a dazzling streak of light. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Block. Buteo was in despair. He looked at the scene before him, his comrades falling one by one. Ulchi, with a broken arm, was still fighting desperately. Qualda had a large, bloody scar on his abdomen, a pitiful sight. Celia lay on the ground, unconscious. The detectors showed her fighting power was rapidly decreasing, indicating she was nearing the end. Roy, this genius girl, was still fighting. As the battle progressed, Roy was even gaining the upper hand, but when the warrior who had defeated Celia joined the fight, Roy was once again in dire straits. And himself. Buteo clutched his chest, struggling to open his eyes. Drops of blood and sweat dripped down, obscuring his vision. He looked at the smug monster in the eyes of the monster. If it weren't for this ugly monster's desire to torture and kill him, he might have already died. Saiyans, claiming to be the strongest fighting race in the universe, and this is all you've got? The handsome man who had just turned into the ugly monster mocked. Buteo glared angrily, not uttering a word, or rather, he dared not, fearing that speaking would exhaust his remaining strength. Almost unconscious? Looks like Saiyans can only play house with me. The ugly monster laughed smugly. Alright, I'm not playing with you anymore. The ugly monster let out a long sigh, the previously hideous, goosebump-covered creature transforming back into the handsome man with the green hair and emerald skin. He sneered, you dared to soil my clothes and turn me into that ugly state? Die, Saiyan. The green-haired man extended his palm, aiming at Buteo, gathering energy. Buteo watched as the man unleashed a ki blast that was about to destroy him, but he was already struggling to stand. There was no way to dodge. Am I going to die? Before, I killed people, now people are killing me. Oh well, so be it. He was just too unwilling to accept it. They Saiyans had fought for Frieza, yet they were ultimately killed by him. Listening to them, everyone else would die too. Roy gasped for breath, wiping the blood from her forehead. She looked around at her sister, Celia, lying on the ground, lifeless, her eyes blazing with despair and regret. If I hadn't appeared before them, if I hadn't sneaked over, would they still be alive? It's my fault, all my fault. Roy was filled with self-reproach, not realizing that even if she hadn't come out, Frieza would still have wiped out all the Saiyans. Simply running away would only lead to being defeated one by Frieza. What a pity, this Saiyan is quite pretty, but she's going to die. Yes, this is King Frieza's order. We can't be as foolish as the Saiyans. Kill them. Roy assumed a fighting stance, looking at the two approaching figures. Even if she died, she'd take one down with her. How, die? The green-haired beauty laughed, a cold laugh, and unleashed a ki blast towards Buteo. Buteo stood upright, standing until the very last moment, determined to die standing. Die? A ki blast rushed towards him, and it was all over. Buteo closed his eyes, yet felt no pain for a long time. Sigh, is death really this peaceful? Hey, Captain, long time no see. What happened to you? Buteo frowned, hearing a familiar voice, and immediately opened his eyes. He saw the tall young man before him and instantly recognized him as a former comrade who had fallen into depravity, abandoning combat for logistics. Buteo had only seen him a few times after returning to Planet Vegeta to collect food. However, Buteo still cared about him. He was his first teammate, Raul. Looking at Buteo's motionless figure, Raul asked in confusion, "Hey, Captain, are you alright? I'm not dead yet, I can hold on for a while longer." Buteo shook his head, then gritted his teeth and roared, "What are you doing here? Run. Run as far as you can before you're injured. They're here to kill us Saiyans. Frieza. That Frieza guy is going to destroy all of us Saiyans." Raul was somewhat surprised that Buteo knew so much, wondering where his captain got all that information. But right now, there were more important things to do. Hey, where did you Saiyan come from again, daring to ignore me?" The handsome green-haired man hovered in the air, looking down at him with displeasure. "You were able to block my ki blast just now, not bad. Hey, you guys check his fighting power, see how much it is?" The handsome green-haired man glanced at Raul and said to his subordinates, his own detector had shattered in the previous battle. "Okay, Captain, check right away," the nearest team member said, activating his detector 5000. "Captain, this Saiyan is pretty strong, his power level is 5000. Although he said this, the red-skin team member wasn't afraid at all. Their captain's normal power level was 6000, surpassing the Saiyans, not to mention that their captain could transform twice 5000. The handsome green-haired man looked at the Saiyan in surprise. "No wonder he could block my ki blast, his power level is 5000, not bad." Buteo and Roy were also shocked, looking at Raul's back. They had both seen Raul before, and they were even more shocked. How could a Saiyan who had retreated to the back still possess such power? But, no, Raul, although your power level is very strong, surpassing mine, this person can transform. After transforming, his power level is around 10,000. Buteo coughed twice, enduring the pain in his chest, and explained the enemy's information to Raul. Transformation? Raul stared in surprise at the handsome man. He had green hair, emerald skin, and a tall, slender figure, a handsome man indeed, and he could even transform. Could he be a member of Sabo's race? Raul scratched his head, remembering two people who were often around Frieza, Dodoria and Sabo. Sabo looked very similar to this man, normally a handsome man, but when he transformed, he became an ugly monster, his fighting power greatly increased. "Why are you staring at me like that?" The handsome green-haired man, noticing the Saiyan staring at him, asked suspiciously, "Could it be, you know me?" "No." Raul shook his head. "TCH, Saiyan, have you been scared out of your mind?" The handsome green-haired man shook his head, extended his palm, and instantly gathered energy. "Fine, I'm too lazy to talk to a dead man, die?" A blazing energy wave rushed towards Raul, who stood motionless and sneezed. A deafening explosion rang out, and Buteo, standing next to Raul, was blown away by the blast wave. Rocks flew everywhere, the earth cracked open, a scene of utter devastation. "You dare stand still and take my attack? Die, Saiyan." The handsome green-haired man turned his attention away from Raul's position and towards his teammates, shouting, "What are you all standing there for? Hurry up and kill them, go back and take a shower. You're filthy." A red-skinned teammate, dumbfounded, pointed behind his captain and stammered, Captain, behind you, he's still alive." Chapter 50 Simulated Talent. Impossible. The handsome green-haired man's eyes widened as he stared at the scene before him. A Saiyan stood unharmed, as if it had all been an illusion. He had just fired a ki blast at this Saiyan. With his power level of 6000, how could a Saiyan with only 5000 stand still and take the hit without a scratch? Impossible, Absolutely impossible. The handsome green-haired man went somewhat mad, placing his hands in front of his chest, gathering energy. A basketball-sized energy ball instantly materialized. Die? The green-haired man threw it forward. The energy ball, imbued with a powerful sense of destruction, struck. While Raul didn't move, his men were terrified. Damn it, run! The captain's enraged. He used his explosive energy ball. We'll all die if we stay here. Run! The green-haired man's teammates used their flying techniques to escape the blast radius. Raul stood motionless, watching with interest as the energy ball hurtled towards him, the blazing, bright orb hurtling towards his chest. Boom! Raul felt the energy ball explode inside him, warm and comforting. But his mind was elsewhere, his newly developed talent, or rather, his newly discovered talent. As an ordinary human reborn as a Saiyan, he believed his advantage lay in understanding the basics of the Dragon Ball world. With his precognitive abilities and access to information others lacked, he could gain a head start and become stronger. In other aspects, Raul didn't feel any different from other Saiyans. His seemingly superior fighting power was due to his prior training based on his memories of his previous life. In terms of talent, even disregarding the monstrous Broly, Prince Vegeta's talent surpassed Raul's. And in terms of strength, after so much training, especially in Earth's special training environment, his fighting power had only reached nearly 100,000. Raul had initially thought this was all there was to him, and that he might eventually evolve again, greatly increasing his fighting power, thanks to the special abilities of the Dragon Balls. However, after undergoing rigorous key mastery training on Earth and completing meticulous martial arts training, he discovered his true talent, surpassing most Saiyans. That talent was simulation and learning. He could practice simulated moves in his mind, and possessed an exceptionally high learning ability. For example, like this. Raul waved his hand forward, clearing away the dust in front of him, and began compressing a ball of energy into a sphere. The handsome green-haired man stared in horror at the Saiyan before him. Not only was he not dead, but he was also condensing a sphere of energy, and this technique seemed so familiar. The green-haired man roared, "Impossible! How are you still alive, and you even know my moves?" Raul didn't answer him, but instead looked down at the sphere of energy he had condensed, muttering to himself, "If it were just a simple move, I could learn it with a single glance. This must be what they call a cheat code in novels. Or is it just because my learning talent is too high?" Regardless, Raul had truly discovered his shining talent. Raul's lips curled into a slight smile as he hurled an explosive ball at the handsome green-haired man before him. The green-haired man watched in terror as his explosive ball was easily used by Raul. He raised his hands to protect his chest, trying to defend himself. With a deafening boom, the explosive ball detonated the moment it touched the green-haired man, who felt a powerful energy surge through his body. When the dust settled, the handsome green-haired man was covered in blood, his combat suit torn to shreds. "Damn it, I'll kill you," the disheveled green-haired man roared in a low voice, a powerful aura erupting from him. His muscles bulged, bumps appeared on his body, and his head became like a toad, extremely ugly. Careful, Raul. In his current form, his combat power exceeds 10,000. Buteo, who had rushed back, quickly warned. He could still put up a fight if Raul didn't transform, but after transforming, he was completely overwhelmed and had no power to resist. Raul simply smiled at him. He hadn't killed him earlier because he was controlling his own ki, wanting to experiment with a different technique. "Let's try Frieza's methods," Raul said, extending a finger as the ugly monster charged towards him menacingly. "Huh? What's he doing? Why is he pointing at me?" The ugly monster was confused, but he didn't stop. The previous attack had hurt him, he was determined to tear him apart with his own hands. Whoosh! Raul concentrated his ki at his fingertip, and a beam of red light shot out instantly. It was so fast that no one present could see it clearly, not even the ugly monster with his current power level of 10,000, he could only vaguely make out a red line. PFFT. The ugly monster stopped, spitting out a mouthful of purplish-red blood. He looked down at his chest, where something had pierced through, leaving a gaping hole. No. Raul looked at the ugly monster lying dead with its eyes wide open, somewhat dissatisfied. No, the speed should be faster, and the power should be more concentrated. "Captain, dead. Run." The surrounding people were stunned. Buteo and the others who were still alive were shocked by Raul's powerful strength, while the ugly monster's team was intimidated by Raul's powerful methods. They were like defeated deserters, throwing off their armor and weapons, and hurriedly took to the air, fleeing further and further away, running away in panic, not daring to look back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Raul glanced at the 4 fleeing people. He was not so merciful to his enemies, and did not even want to say a few more words. 4 people, die? Raul was expressionless, just testing his moves. He stretched out his finger, and beams of red light shot out from his hand. The 4 who were still running away were pierced through the chest in the air and fell to the ground. Watching the 4 people fall from the sky, Law nodded to himself, thinking, at least its outward appearance should be similar to Frieza's death beam. I wonder what it would be like if the real Frieza used it. Frieza's death beam had easily pierced Vegeta's chest on Namek, killing him once. It was incredibly fast. Back then, with Frieza's power, only Vegeta could see it, and Goku could withstand it. Its speed, penetrating damage, and short build-up time were why Law had been constantly simulating and practicing this move in his mind. You're Law, right? Buteo stammered. He still couldn't believe that the 5 people who had seemed so invincible just moments before were dead. They died so quickly, he couldn't even react. Loi secretly glanced at Law, remembering when she first met him and mocked him for being a support staff member, wanting to compare fighting strength. Thinking about it now, her face flushed slightly. Oh. Raul turned his head, looking helplessly at Buteo. Captain, even though I've retired, you can't forget me so quickly. Never mind, eat up. Luckily, I brought some senzu beans just in case. Raul reached out and took out a few senzu beans, handing one to Buteo. A bean? Buteo looked at the somewhat shriveled bean Raul handed him. What was the use of this? Why was he being made to eat beans now? Eat it. Once you eat it, you'll regain your strength. Raul urged Buteo when he saw that he hadn't moved. Okay. Buteo nodded. Raul had saved his life, he would even take poison if necessary. Gulp. Buteo swallowed a senzu bean, and instantly a special energy surged from the dissolved bean, flowing in all directions, filling his internal organs and meridians. Buteo took a deep breath, feeling the abundance of energy within his body, and saw that all the wounds he had sustained in the battle were completely healed. What kind of bean is this? It's amazing. I'm completely healed. Buteo's eyes flashed with a powerful aura. Senzu beans. Raul nodded. Buteo's body had fully recovered, and due to the special Saiyan physique, his fighting power had also increased significantly. I'll go feed them senzu beans. Some of them are seriously injured and can't delay. After Raul finished speaking, he walked towards the seriously injured Saiyans and handed them senzu beans. For those who were unconscious, he simply stuffed them into their mouths, forcing them in. With their lives hanging in the balance, he couldn't care less about such things. Are you alright? Look at you, you look so disheveled. Here, eat one. Raul walked to Roy's side. He remembered this impolite girl and threw her a senzu bean. Roy was also in a pretty bad state. She had just fought against a green-haired man and his teammate, and finally gained the upper hand. But after Celia fainted, it became a 1-on-2 situation. She was being beaten back step by step, and her tough battle suit was torn, revealing a large area of her fair skin. She was covered in blood and looked terrible. Roy immediately caught the senzu bean that Raul threw to her. She had witnessed the amazing effects of the bean, so she swallowed it without hesitation. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.